Okay, good Tuesday to you, my friends. We'll see how this goes. Last time I tried to do this in the middle of the day on a weekday, the stream was not so good, so we'll see how this works out. So, I had a sudden opening in my schedule, and I've been thinking about this, so you know how I am. I tend to just sort of talk when something hits me. So I've come to realize why things have been feeling so intense lately. And it is because of this. You know, sometimes before you see a big planetary shift, you start to feel it. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes it sort of creeps in, and before you know it, something's going on. But when something heavy is coming, then you tend to feel it. And as it's coming, there tends to be an anxiety. Your body can feel that something heavy is on its way. And so, maybe some of you have experienced this too. I've been just anxious for who knows what reason, just really weird, really anxious and really self-conscious, conscious of what I say, and other people are having the same experience where they're really super conscious. There are people that have been thinking that they've been offending me, and others that want to challenge me, and and some of that is normal. But when I see it happening with just a bunch of people at the same time, then I know there's probably something astrological that's going on that's causing all of that. So let me adjust my jewelry. So we're going to talk about what is going to start happening today. What is today? The 17th. Happy tax day, by the way. See, and this is just, there's no coincidence that it's tax day. So April 17th, 2018. We've been in Jupiter retrograde for a little while, and if you haven't already, please go back and watch that. You'll find out what Jupiter retrograde really means. And it'll explain a lot about how people have been responding to spiritual teachers and spirituality in general. It'll explain a lot of my behavior recently. I've gotten kind of ruthless and kind of aggressive. Direct is probably a better way of looking at it. But now we've got Saturn is going to go retrograde today. So we've got Jupiter retrograde in Libra, I think. Let me double check. I'm almost 100% positive of that. Libra retrograde in, Jupiter retrograde in Libra. Yep, and we've got Saturn is going to go. It hasn't as of yet, but it will within the next, few hours. Exactly when, I don't know. Saturn is going to go retrograde in Sagittarius. So that's really interesting because Jupiter is normally the planet, the benefic planet. It's the most benefic. It's like Santa Claus. Jupiter is the jolly old guy who, oh, come on, let me have some candy, and yes, let's pray. Let's all of the criminals come into the temple, and yes, here, just confess to me, and your sins are forgiven. That's normally Jupiter's mindset until he goes retrograde, or if he goes in the 8th house. In my chart, he happens to be retrograde in the 8th house, which is what makes me a thunder wizard. Because when Jupiter goes retrograde, he becomes the uncompromising teacher that when he strikes you with his lightning bolt of truth, it's going to cut straight to the heart of things, and it's going to be very difficult to handle. A lot of you guys, you know me, I'm ruthless with you. My job as Jupiter, because Jupiter wants you to be fulfilled. Jupiter wants you to be happy. That's what Jupiter is all about. But those of you who work with me, you know that I have no tolerance for students who are lying to themselves about what it is that they want. And so when a student is lying to themselves about either what it is that they want, or trying to convince themselves to do something for somebody else, I'm ruthless with you, and it can be really life-shattering. because then you have to face a lot of old patterns about family, friends, spouses, and you have to be willing to at least look at changing that, maybe even destroying those relationships in order to get what it is you truly want. And so there have been more than a few students that when, out of my desire to help them, when I see that they're lying to themselves, I will cut right through that and get right to the heart of it and say, you're bullshitting yourself, and you're the one that's only going to get hurt by it. And it's really, it can be very, very challenging and very difficult and feels like it's killing them. This is what happens when Jupiter goes retrograde. The lightning strikes you. And so he is in, Jupiter is in Libra, which is the sign of balance, the sign of a fair trade. So when Jupiter comes in here and goes retrograde, it becomes about justice. Normally Libra is not about justice. Normally Libra is about a fair balance, about getting a fair trade, making sure that everybody's happy. So when there's an inequity, and especially if you are cheating yourself, this is really important. When you are cheating yourself, then when Jupiter goes retrograde in the sign that's normally about balance and equal exchange of energy, Jupiter becomes a ruthless administrator of justice to make sure that you get your fair share. And if that means he has to slap you out of your codependence, where you're trying to meet other people's needs who are taking energy from you, Jupiter slaps you into saying, listen, this is the path of your soul, because Jupiter is making sure your soul gets to its destination. He's going to say, listen, this is about you. I'm not going to coddle you anymore. Wake up. And then if you don't, because Jupiter is going to say, listen, if you don't wake up, Saturn is right behind me, the planet of karma. And Saturn, he is even more ruthless than Jupiter. Saturn, he just says, listen, you have got to learn the truth, and I am going to put my thumb on you, and I'm going to squish you until you acknowledge what the lesson is. When the pain gets so bad that you can no longer hold on to whatever it is you think you're doing to keep yourself safe, which you're not, then you finally go, I give up, and then Saturn lets go and says, see, I just wanted you to get it. Here's happiness, here's peace, here's prosperity. When Saturn is on your side, Saturn is immovable. I think somebody told me he's got the most mass. Jupiter has the largest, by far the largest, of course he's the largest planet, but besides the sun, which of course is a star, not a planet. Well, planet just means traveling. So from our perspective, the sun and the moon are planets because they travel. That's what planet means, by the way. So people get bent out of shape and say the sun and the moon aren't planets, or the sun isn't a planet. Yes, it's traveling in our sky, so it's technically a planet, even though we're the one that's traveling around the sun. So Saturn, I forgot what I was going to say, but basically Saturn is here to help you acknowledge the lesson that you have asked for. Here's the thing. Everything that you're going through, no matter how challenging or difficult, is by your own design. Before you incarnate, you get together with your guides, and your soul is fearless. When your soul is out of the body, it's fearless. And so, that's why people say, well, why have I been born into this family? I've been getting this more and more because Saturn is coming through with his retrograde. People are like, why am I choosing my family? Life is hell. And forgive me for making fun of it. I went through that as well. My life was hell, in my family also. But that's because when your soul is in between lives, it's fearless, and it goes, man, I really want to be happy and I want to be fulfilled. And there's this one problem that keeps coming up, having to do with other people and other people's agendas. And, I keep just giving in to others. And so I'm just going to make it so difficult this time around that I have no choice. Now, let me tell you, Let me just share with you what it was like for me. You know, I won't get into all the details, but I grew up with an alcoholic father who drank himself to death. He wasn't like physically abusive or anything, but he was non-existent. And I had an overprotective, suffocating mother. Some of you are now going, oh, now I see. An overprotective, suffocating mother who would just squeeze the life out of us kids and just keep us, you know, in her field of influence and trying to keep us from literally leaving the house and having our own life. It was very difficult just to go out and break out. You know, my brother didn't survive it. You know, I don't know what's going on. The last I heard, he was homeless, but I think, you know, well, I know he got some money, so he might be okay for the next couple of years until he runs out of money, and then unless he gets it together, he's probably going to end up back on the street again. I was the youngest of 3 kids. I had an older brother who just physically and emotionally and psychologically very abusive to me, and I was the littlest kid in school. You know, you see me now, and I, you know, present myself as this big tough guy. I'm actually only about 5'8½", but people look at me as I walk down the street and they think I'm 5'10", and that's because of my astrology, and we'll get into that. But I learned to do that because I learned that, you know, as a little kid, if I showed any kind of weakness, man, the beating came even harder. You know, so I had a good poker face. You know, I mean, I'd get, you know, and nope, you're not going to see any pain on my face. And because of all of that, I was a little bonkers. You know, I went through my whole drug and alcohol addictive phase and did all of that stuff. And, you know, my fantasy at one point was that I was gonna off myself. And I was going to take every single drug possible in order to off myself. And I knew that it would kill me, but I wanted to find just that one moment of bliss. And it was getting difficult, you know, getting the right combination of chemicals together to feel good after doing it for so many years is hard to do. And thankfully, I didn't have to do that. I went through a whole religious thing. I won't get into that, but when, in my late teens, early 20s, I'm going to tell you what my greatest fantasy was. In case those of you are out there and you think, oh, he doesn't know what I'm going through. He doesn't know what the kind of emotional pain I go through. He doesn't know. But if you knew how difficult my life was, my greatest fantasy was to drive 60 miles an hour, stick my head out the window, and hit the side of a building. I would like those brick buildings that had a nice, sharp edge on it. And my fantasy was I wanted to stick my head out and just have it crack my head open and just take the top of my head off so that all the insanity would ooze out. Because I just had this head, I just felt so insane all the time. And I was just in absolute misery all the time. So I think somebody's trying to call me some kind of salesman or something. We'll see what that is. Anyway, so that's what it was like for me. So if you're saying that I can't understand what you're going through, what you're feeling, I have a hard time believing that anybody could have a much worse. I mean, some people do actually go insane, and maybe it's because it's too much for them. That was as far as I was able to go. Now today, I'm still human. I make that very clear. I'm still very human. I go through a lot of ups and downs emotionally. I have good days and bad days. And sometimes I go through a lot of emotional difficulty. I lost my soulmate 6 months ago. You know, after 50-something years, I finally found that one soul that when she connected with me, I felt happy on the deepest level and fulfilled on the deepest level. And then I lost her. As soon as I had her, I lost her. If you think that's an easy thing to go through, let me just tell you it's not. Having said that, I am still the happiest and most successful I've ever been in my life. So the point is that when I come at you and I'm ruthless and I have no tolerance for your whining and complaining, it's not because I don't think that you're going through challenges or because you're not in a lot of pain. It's because I know that the only way out of that is the path of the warrior, is the path of is not being a victim. And there's a difference between being in denial and not being a victim. Because as you know, the most spiritual that you can be in this world is to have all of your feelings, to have all of your pain, to have all of your sadness, to have all of your misery, to have all of your doubt, your fears. You have to be conscious of them. And it's intolerable. I know. It is intolerable to feel them. So you find ways to stuff them down. You smoke weed, you drink, you're addicted to porn, you're addicted to video games, you're addicted to relationships. You chase after that guy that you'll never be able to have a relationship with, but you chase after him anyway. You get the girl that's not interested in you, who keeps pushing you aside and keeps stringing you along. You do all of those things to avoid your feelings. You indulge in conspiracy theories, and then you make it worse. You smoke weed, which attacks the liver, right? And the liver is your protector. And when your liver is attacked, then you become paranoid. Have you ever noticed that? People who smoke a lot of weed are really deep into conspiracy theories. That's why. It's because THC attacks the liver, makes you paranoid, and then everything and everybody is out to get you. This is what you do to avoid having all of your feelings. And I'm here to tell you now that, especially when Saturn kicks in like this, you are not going to be able to escape it. And the more that you avoid your feelings, the more feelings start to pile up in your unconscious, and then some people snap and they go crazy. Some people, they face it. So we've talked about angry Jupiter, which is Thor. Thor is the war god in the northern pantheon. Indra, especially. Indra is the conqueror. Jupiter, the conqueror. This is Jupiter retrograde. And then we have Saturn. Saturn is already the judge. Saturn, and by the way, everybody also whom I've worked with, including myself, if you don't think I know what it's like to have Saturn on your case, try having retrograde Saturn in your 6th house. Please enjoy that. The 6th house is the house of enemies. Saturn is the house of, Saturn is the planet of judgment, of lessons. Retrograde Saturn is intensified internally. You put that in your 6th house. This is why I had an older brother who was constantly emotionally and physically harassing me. This is why as a little kid, nobody messes with me now. I walk down the street and nobody messes with me. I've stared down, when I was in my 20s, I've stared down, more than 3 or 4 really seriously, like gang members that wanted to do me serious harm and take my money. And all it took for me was a serious look into their eyes and they turned around and walked away. So nobody messes with me now. But as a kid, I got picked on all the time. I was the littlest kid in school. I was sometimes, every now and then there'd be one kid that was maybe a little bit, shorter than I was. But I was the littlest kid in school. And so I was the one that got picked on all the time. And it turned me into a really, I ended up being the toughest kid in school because I would take on the biggest kid in this is elementary school. I would take on the biggest kid and I would take him down. They would start to pushing and shoving and Saturn would kick in. And I'd black out. And I'd wake up, with my fists like this and there'd be a kid on the ground with, red spots on his face because I was punching him in the face. And I couldn't remember. That's what Saturn does in the 6th house. But you have to go through a period as a kid. If you've got Saturn or Mars in your 6th house, it means that as a youngster, you had to fight your way through all the bullies. But these planets in the 6th house get stronger as you get older, and then you become, basically bulletproof. That even when enemies come at you, that you defeat them. So this is Saturn retrograde. Sorry, I got a little lost. But my point here is I wanted you guys to understand, those of you who feel like life is victimizing you. You look at me and you see, oh, he's this successful YouTube teacher and he's got all this and he's got that and blah, blah, blah. But my life, trust me, I've been through it. Whatever it is, maybe I haven't gone through exactly what you've gone through, and maybe you've gone through things worse than I have. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that can tell me things that I haven't experienced that, I would say, yep, that's even beyond what I've experienced. But, I have been to that edge, and I've looked over that edge of sanity. I've straddled that. And I'm here to tell you that the only way through it is to take complete and full responsibility for your life. If you do not take full responsibility for your life, Saturn will squish you with his thumb until you say, I give up, I give up. So this is why I'm so adamant about dropping the victim mentality. You got to drop it. The victim mentality is only going to set you up for more pain. There's no way around it. So, I wanted to talk about what's going on politically and in the news, because this is a direct result of not only the eclipse that happened last year in Leo, when Rahu went over the sign of Leo, which was, Rahu is, when he goes over a sign in an eclipse, he brings out the secrets. So Leo is the elite, the ruling class. The kings, the queens. Rahu went over that saying he was going to reveal all of the secrets. And then now we have Jupiter has gone retrograde and he's going to bring justice. He's going to balance the scales. And now we have Saturn in Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is the sign of Jupiter, which is the teacher, spiritual teachers and gurus. And Saturn is now going to bring down his judgment on spirituality. And so you're going to see a lot of chaos, a lot of fighting going on, back and forth. Spiritual teachers are going to be motivated to be ruthless with the lightning bolt and come at students with the lightning bolt to slap out of them thousands of years of karma. This is the one thing you need to understand. When a true teacher is ruthless with you, he is doing it because he or she is being led by Jupiter to relieve you of lifetimes of karmic imbalance. It's like, when you eat bad fish, you got to puke it up. But after you puke it up, oh, you feel so much better. But as you're puking, you're like, I just don't let me throw up. I won't eat anymore. But no, it's got to come up. And this is what Jupiter does with his lightning bolt. He's going to slap out of you all of that karmic crap that is becoming intolerable for you. It's getting to the place where if it's not dealt with, then something even worse could come. Illness, death, insanity, more misery, poverty. And Jupiter says, I can see that you can't take this anymore. So I'm gonna hit you with the lightning bolt and I'm gonna jolt it out of you. And it's gonna be worse than just normal karma. But it's instantaneous. And once the flash is over, then it's gone. But if you fight with it, it's gonna be even worse. Jupiter is in the sign of Sagittarius, which means that the masses, people are going to challenge teachers. This is happening with me. People are challenging me on YouTube and off. They're challenging, I just got one really weird comment from somebody. I just put out a video, we'll talk about this as well, where I'm lowering the price of my astrology readings by $100. And this guy comments and says, You're advertising for a product? I am unsubbing. And then he goes on to say, how dare you take advantage of people? Shame on you. And my response was, this is news to you that I advertise my services? Really? But that's what Saturn is doing for him. And that's the other thing, you got to be careful, because Saturn is going to push people when they're not, especially if people have victim mentalities towards people in power or spiritual teachers. If you've got an issue, a karmic issue or an unconscious issue, Saturn is going to make you want to lash out at them. And that's good, because if they are not in integrity, then that is what's going to bring them down. But you got to be careful if you lash out unconsciously out of your own unconscious projections, right? Because I'm willing to bet, I don't know this guy, but I'm willing to bet that this is a guy who wants to be a teacher on an unconscious level, but he's not doing it because he feels like he is a fraud. And so he's now projecting that onto me. I go on and I say, hey, $100 off of astrology. And not only that, I'm expanding and I'm certifying other people to teach this, and I'm helping to promote them so that they can make money. I'm actually helping people. I'm helping people make more money, helping people get $100 off astrology readings, and I'm helping other people learn how to do what I do and make money doing it. You know, the last thing that I'm doing is taking advantage of people. So this is a guy who unconsciously wants to be a teacher, but he thinks that he's not worthy and that he's a fraud. And so instead of taking action to be what he wants, he criticizes me for doing what he unconsciously wants to do. And he may even be destined to do it. He may be fighting with his destiny. So there's going to be a lot of that. There's going to be a lot of people lashing out at teachers. Saturn is bringing out within them the judgment that they have against themselves. Saturn is judgment. So these are just some of the things that are coming. So far it looks like the stream is still healthy, so maybe we'll keep going. I am going to take a short break here because I make these fun little movies, and then I'll check and see if there's anybody online. Again, if you're new to my channel, the best way to interact with me is to ask a question. Live, I'm not talking about after it's archived. You can leave whatever comment you want if you're watching it after it's been recorded. But if it's live, you need to write question. Otherwise, I have to scroll past all of the comments and people talking to each other and throwing out their opinions and all of that. So if you're new to the channel and you want me to address, please write question. And also, please let it really be a question. There's sometimes people will write question because they know that I'll read it, and then they'll throw out their opinion. Right? It's not a question. Please have respect for me and actually ask me a question. Don't just use that as an excuse to throw out say whatever the hell you want to say. All right, so sit back, get some popcorn, enjoy my little movie, and then I will answer any questions if there are any. I mean, you can even see it in the change in my, my little intro videos here, where you know, you've got, you see that? I love that drawing somebody made of me. I forget the guy's name, McGee. Sorry, I forget your first name. Somebody gave me a drawing, and I thought, wow, that, you know, it was good for my ego to, you know, somebody drew me looking like that. But you can see that even with that, I've got the angry lightning and all that. It's just Jupiter retrograde coming through. And even in my thing, you see I've got the picture of me looking all like next to my surfboards. That's just what's coming out in. That's what Jupiter is bringing out. So this is, you know, these times, as challenging as they are, these are the best times for spiritual growth. If you know, now is the time. If you have a 40-day ritual, you know, if you've gotten a mantra and a ritual from me, now is the time to focus on that. Because Jupiter and Saturn are going to be the most receptive to your spiritual growth right now. So it's, you know, it's going to be one or the other. You've either got the wrath of the gods coming down on you to slap out, you know, thousands of years of karma on you, and to bring down the hammer so that you give up and you stop fighting your lessons. Or if you turn and you say, I want to take responsibility, I want to feel all the emotions, I want to acknowledge how I can shift, I'm finally going to quit smoking cigarettes, I'm finally going to quit, you know, whatever it is, and I'm finally going to motivate myself to, you know, whatever it is that you've been wanting to do. And this is the thing, it's going to feel impossible. You need to understand this. One of the things, the major things that we all do, myself included, but, you know, as a teacher I definitely see it, is that people want the universe to make them feel like it's easy. So, you know, you got to make that commitment, that financial commitment to whatever it is. You go, well, I got to wait until I get more money. It doesn't work like that. You make the commitment when you don't have the money. You go after that thing, pay that bill, whatever it is. Go after your soul desire. Take that class. You know, take that trip that you know that you need to do to follow your own true path. And the universe goes, okay, they're willing to sacrifice everything for what's best for them. Let's give them what they need. If you're waiting around for the universe to drop money into your lap in order to give you the motivation to take action to do what it is that you know that you need to do, it's never going to work that way. Never going to work. And even if it's something that doesn't involve money, you know, you gotta quit smoking. You gotta go to the gym. You gotta get healthy. You know, I gotta go to the dentist. I gotta get a teeth cleaning. It's been too long. You know, you don't wait around until it's like, well, you know, when I really get the feeling that it's okay and I feel safe, then I'll go. No, it's gonna feel horrible. It's gonna be the last thing that you're gonna want to do. You have to learn how to take what's called contrary action. You have to take action that is directly against what your fears and, you know, for lack of a better word, your laziness wants to do. Listen, we never change unless we absolutely have to. The difference between people who can make it through the challenges in their life and become successful are the ones who take action, they initiate the action. The people who wait until the last minute, who wait until it is too painful and they can't do it anymore, are the ones that end up with all of the major serious problems that last for their lifetime. You know, the difference between me and my brother. My brother avoided his life. You know, he had as many, if not more opportunities than I did, and he refused to do it. And now he's got to be in his 60s now, and I don't know if he's going to make it. I mean, he's one of the strongest people I've ever seen, to be honest with you. Like, seriously, if he could take 1/10 of his energy that he puts into making himself miserable, he'd be the most successful person on the planet. So, you know, it's not going to be easy, the changes that the universe are telling you to make. It's not going to be like, you know, you're going to drop some pill or, you know, smoke some drug or something, and then all of a sudden you're going to go, oh yes, I see the light now, and now I can become spiritual. It's not going to work that way. That whole New Age idea of just love and light, and then the universe will open up and like a beautiful flower, it doesn't work like that. The way that it works, and I'm not saying that can't happen, but it's usually that happens after you've worked really hard to overcome things. But again, what Saturn and Jupiter will respect in this time period is if you are honest and fearless. Okay, it looks like my stream is getting messed up here again. I don't know if you can still see me or not. So if you can, let me know. Okay, there it goes. So what Saturn and Jupiter are going to want from you is to be honest and to be fearless. That means no matter how scary and painful it is to take that action towards what it is you know you need to do, Saturn and Jupiter will jump in to help you right now. You are going to feel like you're dying inside. You will be afraid. You still may have people coming or situations coming against you, but that's only to remind you to keep going in the right direction. If you continue to see yourself as a victim, if you continue to see that the universe has it in on for you, if you continue to indulge in the conspiracy theories, that again is all about being a victim, because you don't indulge in conspiracy theories unless you like the idea of the government or the aliens or the archons or whomever, you know, doing it to you, and you've got to find your way out and life is hell. As long as you hang on to that, all you're going to do is make Jupiter roll his eyes, and you're going to make Saturn just ball up his fist, and they're just going to squish you. If you are willing to feel like, you know, to go up against what feels like is killing you, and if you are willing to take action regardless of how painful and scary it is, then that fist will turn around and lift you up. That lightning bolt, instead of striking you in the third eye and making your head vaporize, will shoot up through your spinal column and empower you. So it's either internal or external. Okay? All right, so I'm going to get into the politics of stuff that's going on, but first I'll check and see if there are any questions. I haven't seen any so far. Again, the best way to get my attention is to ask a question. So Sovereign Universalist, you're obviously new to the channel. You want me to answer a question, you have to put question. I caught it because I could see a question mark. And you're going to ask me about somebody else. What is your take on Neo Gimmer's channel and his experience of the coming event? Neo Glimmer. Okay, so you're new to my channel, so let me answer that. It is disrespectful of you to ask me about what another teacher thinks. It's disrespectful to me, and it's disrespectful to them, because you're putting me in a position to gossip about somebody else. Now, I don't know who this person is, so I can't make any judgments, but if I did, and I chose to answer your question, I would be then forced to say, yes, I like him, or no, I don't. So that's disrespectful to them. It's disrespectful to me because by asking me about another teacher, you are disrespecting the teaching that I'm here to give you. So ask me about me, what I think. Okay? So this is Jupiter. Jupiter's asking for you to give respect to the teacher, whether you see me as a teacher or not, the teacher element in general. This is, by the way, why, you know, Chinese teachers especially, you know, because they have a lot, they're very powerful Jupiter energy, the Chinese teachings, is that if you don't come to them with respect, they don't yell and scream at you, they just close the door on you without a word. They'll just slam the door in your face. They just won't talk to you. Okay? All right, so let's see if there's any other questions here. Okay, again, you need to put question. Zarok Magic, you should know better. You've been on these Q&As more often than not. You talk about law of attraction stuff, question mark. What kind of a question is that? I do, but if you want to ask a question, put the effort into asking a question that I can actually answer. Okay? All right, let's take a look and see again. Oh, there's a couple of questions there. Sandra Lavini, question. I've just discovered your videos and have enjoyed them a lot, so no disrespect. So let's see if there's any, if this truly has no disrespect in it. Usually when people say, you know, I don't mean any disrespect, but, and then everything after but is going to be disrespect. I don't mean to criticize you, but, then there's going to be a criticism. So we'll see if that's true here. So no disrespect intended by this in question, but how is your belief in God's qualitatively different than belief in Jesus? Why do you need to, I don't understand why there would be disrespect in that question. First off, it is kind of disrespectful because you're trying to now make me justify myself, which I have no interest in justifying. And, you know, I now have to prove myself to you that my belief in the gods is qualitatively different than the belief in Jesus. So, you're new to the channel. You need to go onto my channel and type in Jesus and see all of the videos where I talk about who Jesus really is. Then you'll know why there's a difference. So let me just, again, this is Saturn coming through. People want, you know, there are so many videos on my channel that are going unwatched because people don't put the time and effort to find out what's on my channel. Now, some people are ignorant because YouTube sets it up so that you don't, you know, it's trying to get your attention all over the place. It doesn't help you go and actually watch somebody's, you know, binge watch somebody's channel. It's trying to get you to watch all these other videos all the time. So you have to learn on whatever your device is, whether it's a desktop or an iPad or a phone. You've got to figure out how to go onto somebody's YouTube channel and search within their channel. Once you know how to do that, because otherwise you'll just be searching all through YouTube. Once you know how to do that, type in whatever you want. You want to find out about Jesus on my channel? Go onto my channel on my search bar, not the YouTube search bar, and type in Jesus. There will be more than enough videos to find out what I believe. Okay? So yes, you are trying to challenge me. You're putting me on the defensive. I have to prove myself to you, and I'm not going to do that. So you're right. That is disrespectful. But I turn it back on you. If you really want to find out why Jesus is different, you put the time and effort to watch the videos I've already put out. Okay? All right, so let's go on. Black Earth Productions, questions. In context to the issue of tolerance, do you agree that we as men are to have no tolerance for ignorance and apathy? I mean, that's my instinctual response to that. Yeah, I mean, that is my instinctual. I'm hesitating because, you know, that there's a lot that I need to learn, and I'm acknowledging that. There are lots of times that I have been too harsh with people, and I have been too intolerant, and I have been too quick to judge. So I hesitate because I want to make sure that I continue to have that awareness. Having said that, you know, I would say, you know, teachers, you know, Black Earth Productions, Sethicus Boza, you're also a teacher. So that's going to mean that especially in times like this, Jupiter is going to make you very intolerant to things like ignorance and apathy. So let's talk about ignorance for a moment. I'm going to get controversial here, but I don't give a fuck right now. You are going to find that the majority of people who are into conspiracy theories, who refuse to look at facts that go against their emotional agenda, even though they are, you know, facts that cannot, they're incontrovertible facts. You'll find the kind of people, like for instance, the flat earthers. There's no difficulty in proving that we live in a round planet. But if you have an emotional agenda to be attached to the idea of the flat earth, and most people who are attached to the idea of the flat earth are people who are very much into victim mentality, and that's why you have the whole Saturn matrix flat earth thing, because that's a whole victim mentality thing. You'll also find that these people are ignorant, and I'll go a step further, they are uneducated. You know, I dislike monotheism as much as anybody. That includes the big three: Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. Now, I'm also of the belief that I don't spend time criticizing something that's not mine. I was a Christian, so I attack Christianity. People ask, why don't you attack Islam? There's two reasons. One is, I don't want to feed into the ignorance of the uneducated, stupid, redneck idiots that use that as an excuse to be racist and bigoted. But it's also because I'm not Muslim. So that's not my job. My job is to clean my house. And I'm a Christian, as when I was a kid. I'm not a Christian, let me say that. I'm not a Christian. I was born into a Christian family and I was part of the Christian religion. So that's my job to clean that up, and that's why I go after that. But ignorance and the lack of education are a big problem. And you will find that the people who indulge in all of that stuff, and I'm going to talk about a big one today. I'm going to name him right now, Alex Jones. You're going to find that the majority of people who follow him are uneducated. I'll give you an example. I'll go back to the Muslim thing. I had an apprentice that I no longer have, and that was her decision, not mine. But she was really into that. She wanted to talk about how the immigrant Muslims are coming in to destroy our country and blah, 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 blah. And she talked about, anyway, I won't get into it because I don't want to out her, but what ended up destroying our relationship was I said, do you know the difference between different types of Muslims? Do you know the difference between a Muslim that lives in Yemen and a Muslim that lives in Iran, a Muslim that lives in North Africa? Do you understand, do you even know where they are and what the difference are? Or are they all the same? Because I have friends who were Muslim, who were born in Muslim countries. I've had friends with people who are Muslims. And their religion has not prevented them from being some of the best people I've ever known. So this is where ignorance comes in. Ignorance takes half-truths and uses it for its own emotional agenda. So if you're afraid of people you don't understand, and if you're not educated, meaning you haven't learned what the different types of, for instance, Islam, the different types of Islam there are in the world, and what's the difference between a Sufi Islam, Muslim, and the guys who attacked the Twin Towers? If you don't understand that there is a huge difference culturally, linguistically, religiously, then you have no business making blanket statements about Muslims unless you understand them. So this is ignorance, and I have no tolerance for it. Apathy. Apathy is another excuse for laziness. You know, I mean, you can be apathetic about things, you know, but apathy about taking action in your life, that is, yeah, I have no tolerance for that either, because then, you know, you end up heaping all kinds of crap on top of yourself, and then it's hard to have compassion for that. Again, I'll talk about my own brother. If you were to talk to my brother, you might very well think, oh my God, he's been through so much, and he's blah, blah, you know, you might think he's this poor victimized person. Except that I've known him my whole life. I've watched him continuously invest in his own misery. And so I have no sympathy for where he's at. Zero. Zero sympathy. Because I've watched him do it to himself. So yeah, I'm with you on that. So I would say more that that's probably because you're a teacher. Not so much because you're a man, but because you're a teacher, Sethicus Boza. It's going to make it difficult for you to have tolerance for ignorance and apathy. Now, I'm sharing my take on it. Yours might be different, but that's where I'm at. Okay, Zach Cronenweider says question, and then it goes blank. All right, here we go. Zarek Magic followed direction and said question. So after you, negative thoughts can't manifest negative people. I don't know what you're asking. In situations like in this LOA stuff, I don't understand one word of that question. It's misspelled and there's no, let me read it again. So after you, negative thoughts can't manifest negative people in situations like this LOA stuff I don't know what that means, man. Put a little more effort into actually making a coherent question, spell things right, use punctuation. It's there for a reason. Sovereign Universalist. I am your teacher as well. I'm going to call bullshit on that. You know why you're not my teacher? I haven't asked you to teach me anything. Teacher-student relationship is one where the student has to ask. So, you know, if you're on my channel, whether you think I'm a teacher or not, you have made that choice to be on my channel and listen to me. I haven't found you, I haven't tracked you down and sent you an email saying, come on to my channel and watch me, unless you've wanted that. So you're not my teacher. I have not given you that right to teach me. This is the difference between teaching and giving unsolicited advice. I destroyed somebody who tried to do that, who came on and was going to, again, this is Saturn in Sagittarius testing the teacher, and she was going to give me the hard truth about what she thought I was doing wrong, and I, not only blocked her, I tore her a new one, because I haven't given her that right. She doesn't have the right to teach me. It doesn't mean I can't learn from you. I learn from people who make mistakes. I learn from your mistakes. But in order to be my teacher, you have to have something that I want, and I have to come and ask for you to teach me. That's how that works. So I'm learning here, Sovereign Universalist, you're in denial over the fact that you want to be a teacher. You want to put out this bullshit that you learn from me as well. This means you need to put yourself out there and be a teacher. Own up and be a teacher. People who troll other people's channels and criticize teachers, I know because I did it, are people who unconsciously want to have their own channel and be a teacher. So stop criticizing others and go be a teacher. That's why I don't criticize other teachers. Unless, they really, 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 really deserve it. Other than that, that's why if you ask me to talk about another teacher, I won't talk about it. Okay. Anyway, so let's see here. Abrupt future question. Your first level apprenticeship says we meet once a month by Skype or phone. Do you not meet in person? I'm in SoCal. Meeting in person means that I have to get in a car and drive somewhere and meet you somewhere, or you have to come to my private residence, because I don't have a studio right now. And there have been times when I have had studios and I had group classes. So I don't have any group classes right now. I will, because I keep getting people asking me to do that. I'm not close to the idea, but for now, if somebody wants to be my apprentice, they have to go through the same thing that everybody else has to, which is they have to start online and go to thunderwizard.com. Anybody who wants to learn syncretic shamanism from the bottom up, I will teach you from the basics all the way up into high-level stuff. Go to thunderwizard.com and sign up as a first-level apprentice. What you're talking about is actually the higher up, the private, working with me privately. So for now, no, you have to work with me. If you live in the U.S., you have to work with me by phone. Skype is for people who are outside of the country. So you have to go through that and get a bunch of the basics first. Because listen, I'm not going to get in my car and drive to Denny's somewhere and hang out with you for an hour until you have proven to me that you have put the time and effort into learning what it is I have to teach, and that you've put it into your life. Then I'm open to that. Until then, you got to do what everybody else has to do. So I hope that answers your question. Leah McKnight question, could you talk more about Jupiter being in Scorpio? Jupiter is not in Scorpio. So that's Western astrology. Western astrology is off by 24 degrees when we're talking about the Earth relative to the sky above you. So this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about sidereal astrology, which is what Vedic astrology uses. So I don't use that. So Jupiter is not in Scorpio at this time. Looking for the questions. Doku 007. Question. When one finds his or her personal mantra, does he or her have to actually physically say it, or can you pre-recording suffice? No, the idea is that you have to say it. You can record it. There's nothing wrong with recording it and then playing it. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But yeah, you need to say it. You don't have to say it out loud. You can whisper it. If you have the mental discipline, you can say it in your mind. Most people don't. Other thoughts and words come in and they can't keep it going in their head. But you do have to say it. Black Earth Productions questions. Would you say that there's a difference between empathy and sympathy? Empathy is, we're just talking about the definition of the word here. Empathy means to feel with. Pathos, empathos, to feel in or to feel with. So I have empathy. I can have empathy for somebody and have no sympathy for them. It means that I know what it feels like. Like I know exactly what's going on with my brother. I know exactly what it feels like to be him. I don't have any sympathy for him. So sympathy is that you kind of feel sorry for them. I mean, there are times to have sympathy. You know, a good scenario to have sympathy is in like a romantic relationship. That's important. Sympathy meaning like synced up, the same feelings together. You know, this is why, I don't date my students, because I can't do both. I can't have empathy and I can't be there and help you work through your problems as your teacher and be your lover at the same time, because to be somebody's lover means you feel with them. So if I'm dating somebody, I don't tell them what they need to do. That's their business. They got to find their own teacher. They got to find their own way. My job is when they come to me and they're having a bad day, that I take them and I stroke them and kiss them and say, I love you and I'm sorry you're going through that. And if they ask for my opinion and I think it's appropriate, maybe I'll say it. But other than that, my job is to give them massages and make them feel good and, take them out to dinner or something like that. So that's the difference between sympathy and empathy. My take on it, anyway. Johnny Delgadillo says he's your teacher. Well, you're my teacher in that I will watch your mistakes and learn from them. Yep. I'm not saying if I have done that or not, but that's what I would do. Xerox Magic question. Do positive, negative thoughts lead to positive, negative situations? You talked about this manifestation process and saw your video on the law of attraction stuff. So if you saw those videos, why are you asking? I'll very briefly address that. The secret, the thing that says you manifest what you focus on, is incomplete. And this is why it doesn't work. Have you ever tried it? I want to be a billionaire. I want to be a billionaire. I want to be a billionaire. And you're not. Because focusing, the secret works really well in a negative capacity, meaning if you focus on negativity, you will definitely manifest it. Because the universe is set up to give you negative reinforcement whenever you buy into victim mentality. If you buy into being a victim, the universe is set up to create that for you, so that you will be tired of being a victim. In terms of focusing on positive things, like I want to be a billionaire, you think you're focusing on something positive, but you're actually not, because when people focus on I want to be rich, it comes from a victim mentality that says, if I just had money, it would all be okay, which isn't true. The positive aspect of getting what you focus on only applies when you are in alignment with your soul. In order to be in alignment with your soul, you have to be willing to be fearless and die for going after what will make you happy. When you are willing to do anything and everything it takes to follow what makes you happy, regardless of friends, family, spouses, government, physical illness, then the universe is designed to answer that and to give you what you need in order to fulfill what makes you happy. Money will not make you happy. That's why wanting to be a billionaire never works. Because money won't make you happy. It'll just give you more stuff to surround you while you make yourself miserable. I have nothing against money. For instance, I'm living here on the beach, Southern California, in front of my favorite surf spot. It is not cheap living here. And just a year ago, I couldn't have done it. And now I'm comfortably living here. And it's not about money. It was about I decided exactly where I wanted to live. I've even walked past this house. It's actually a duplex house, really old, like 1930. I think it was built in 1930. I actually walked past it and go, I'd live there. As I'm carrying my surfboard back to my car, driving back, a half an hour inland, I'd go, yeah, I would totally live there. And now I'm living here. So the universe gave me the money to be able to afford this place, not because I asked for money. I didn't. I walked past and I said, I want to live in that section of the beach. I want to live on a second floor. I want to be able to look out my bedroom window and see the waves. I want to be able to pick the surfboard that I want and walk out my door onto my beach. And even if it's Saturday and the parking lot is full, because I live next to the parking lot for the beach. Even if the parking lot is full, I never have to park. I just walk out of my house. Then the universe says he's following his soul desire and he's doing everything in his power to do that. So let's give him what he needs. That's how it works. The law of attraction. Scadfly seeking truth question. I almost missed it because you didn't put it in all caps. And that's just because it's hard for me to see. Because there's so many people trying to say something all the time. Question about Black Earth Productions question. Is there a difference between physical, spiritual empathy? I don't understand your question. Can it affect you physically? I don't understand your question. Knowing what little I know about you, you're asking if you are spiritually empathizing with somebody, can it affect you physically? If I'm hearing your question right, what you're talking about is codependence. What you're saying is that you don't have any emotional boundaries and you let other people's emotions affect you. Yes, that can affect you physically. So if I'm right and what it is that you're working through, you have to have your own boundaries, and your boundaries are not clear. The health challenge you're experiencing is a direct result of a lack of boundaries. So you need to go to counseling. You need to talk to somebody about how to have your own space, how not to let other people's emotions affect you, meaning you take on the responsibility to make them happy or make them feel better. You're not responsible for anybody else's feelings. You don't have to avoid anybody else's anger. It's really important to understand this. One of the main problems in our society is we have people who are living in a constant state of survival fear. So, we have this response to danger. You're familiar with one which is called fight or flight, which is, do I fight that thing and kill it, or do I run away and save myself? But there's another response to that which is called tend or befriend. So you see this in people who are overly nice, who are always looking to make everybody feel better, who feel responsible whenever anybody's not happy or somebody's angry. They're constantly going to make sure that everybody feels good. These are passive-aggressive people. They come up with you with a smile on their face, and what they're really trying to do is they're trying to knock you down a few pegs. This comes from tend or befriend. It's the same as fight or flight. So, what ends up happening, we're talking about, caveman times, the men respond from their testosterone, which is fight or flight. So they go out and they want to kill the next door neighbor cave guys and take his wife, or they want to say, we got to get out of here and pack everybody up and leave and go to the next cave up in the mountains. But what the females would do is they do tender befriend, which is they go and they give food to the other people and they make peace and all of that. You know, when there's fighting going on, they go and gather the kids and hold the kids and say everything's going to be okay, and they hum, you know, and make everybody feel better. It's all coming from fear. So when you are in a constant state of tender befriend, meaning you've grown up in a scenario where you've been trained that you are responsible for everybody's feelings, you have to take care of everybody else's anger or everybody else's discomfort, you are in a state of constant stress. You're in survival mode, and so your body is continuously pumping out all those negative hormones through your entire life, and it makes you sick. This is why I'm ruthless about my boundaries. As you just saw, some guy said something about, do you work with people in person? Now, I don't know him. I don't know what he wanted. Somebody wanted to give me a gift and said they could only give it to me in person. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't know you. I'm not going to invite you to my house. I don't know you. You want to be my student? Go through, you know, what you have to go through to be my student. Then if you've earned that right and I trust you, then maybe. But that's a long way away. That sounds ruthless. It sounds, oh, as a teacher, you should be nice. And why? No, I'm a human being. I can't be a teacher if I don't take care of myself. This is why I don't take clients before 4 o'clock. Because my main source of health is surfing. It is my medicine. It is the one thing that gives me the greatest peace and joy. And it keeps me physically fit, but emotionally and spiritually, it does something to me that I can't even describe. And that's why I don't take clients before 4, because I don't know if I'm going to go surfing that day or not. And I want to be able to go surfing and come back and shower and take a nap and get a massage if I need to, and then I'll be ready to take a client. So same comes true with teaching students. You know, students, you want to be my student, then you have to go through and show me that you can learn. Show me that you have the respect for the teaching, that you have the respect for yourself, that you have the discipline to follow through. When you can do that and you go through all of those channels and you have earned my respect and you've earned my trust, that I know that I'm going to be safe with you, then yeah, then we'll start talking about, you know, getting together and working together on a personal level. You need to do that for yourself if you want to heal yourself. So if you're talking about, again, spiritually empathizing, again, that means that you feel other people's feelings. So on a spiritual level, you've got to learn to, you've got to fix that. You've got to be ruthless. And it's going to be very challenging for you because you're going to feel guilty and you're going to feel like you're killing the people that you're you know, creating a boundary between you and whoever it is. And that's going to be the most painful, frightening thing you're going to go through. And it's the lesson you have to learn. I've seen people kill themselves through illness because they couldn't handle the thought of that. They couldn't handle the thought of not being the good person. Okay, so enough about that. All right. Yeah, I know Johnny, you were just giving me a wisecrack. And I know you're sensitive, so don't worry. I wasn't taking it personally. I appreciate it. I appreciate what you had to say. Doku 007 question, will saying a mantra in other languages change the outcome of what? I don't understand your question. Put some effort into the questions. I don't know what that means. All right. Okay, Xerox Magic, he's going to give me his opinion. He didn't ask questions, so I'm not going to read it. Scoutfly Seeking Truth. Question, sorry, spiritual or physical empathy. If somebody is ill, I get similar pains and get sick. It's the same thing. If somebody is emotionally ill, I feel nothing. So then you don't have any boundaries. It's still the same thing. You feel responsible for their illness. You feel that you need to make them feel better. You're taking on their illness. This happens a lot. I remember I was in a dysfunctional relationship. This was a long time ago, with a woman, and she would get these like migraine headaches, and I would end up taking on her headaches. She would come over and be with me, and I'd give her a massage, and then she'd leave and feel better, and I'd have a headache. We could say, oh, yes, energetically and blah, blah, blah. But the truth is that I was in a dysfunctional relationship, and I was caretaking somebody that wasn't, you know, in alignment with their own health and in their own boundaries. So, you know, that's one of the things I've learned, is that I got to be careful for the wounded kittens. You know, I'm attracted to the wounded kittens because as the Leo, I want to take care of them and shower them with love and affection. I really am. You see this asshole teacher, you know, in a relationship, I'm seriously, I mean, I would totally date me if I was a chick. Because I can be so incredibly loving and devoted and affectionate and all that. But, you know, I got to watch out, because if I get the wounded kittens who aren't in alignment, then, you know, my boundaries aren't clear and I end up taking on their stuff. So it's the same thing. Everything I just said from an emotional level is same on a physical level. Yeah, because you're saying here you learn to block the emotional empathy, so you still have it. You know, blocking it, I don't know what that means. That could be you're in denial. I'm willing to bet, without a doubt, you still have emotional boundary issues. You can't have one without the other. So, Swift had a question. Do we have to do good? I don't know what that means. Good according to who? According to God, according to Christ, according to the Bible, according to your parents, according to... So, if doing good means you're trying to meet somebody else's standard, then no. You have to, you know, the thing is, if you follow your integrity, you will always do good. This is why you never need to live by a code of commandments. This is why the heathens who adopted or created this what was that? I don't even know what they call it anymore. The 9 noble virtues. What's happening is, on an unconscious level, they're trying to repeat Christianity. There are no commandments. There's only one commandment. Go read my book, The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. There is only one commandment, and that one commandment is that you follow what your soul wants to do, what makes your soul happy. When you do that, it is impossible for you to harm somebody else. Because when you harm somebody else, you are draining energy out of yourself. So you learn very quick that if you steal from somebody, or if you lie to people, or if you manipulate people, or if you use people, that you end up losing energy. And you go, that doesn't feel good. My soul is unhappy when I do that. So you will be in integrity, and you will tell the truth. You know, telling the truth, for instance, you know, there are things that sometimes you have to tell people. You have to tell employers. You have to give your sexual history sometimes when you're dating somebody. You do that because then later on you don't have some secret that you're holding on to about, oh, are they going to find out about this? It drains you of your energy. So just don't have any secrets. You know, tell people the truth. And then you get all of your energy back. That's doing good. Billy Bobsled question. Do you believe there is something else than reincarnation for carnate existence? Do you believe the cycle can end? And if so, is that a goal? How many questions can you put into one question? I don't know what you mean by something else than reincarnation. You mean, does reincarnation stop? Yeah, that's the whole idea. We reincarnate for one reason. Exactly what I just said. The soul has desires. Your soul, when you came, every time you incarnate, it's because your soul says, I want to do this. I can tell you, among other things, what I want to do is I want to surf. I love it. It makes me so happy. That's my soul wants to do that. There's so much in it. I've been thinking about it the other day. You know, every time I'm out in the ocean and I'm sitting there and there are these waves coming in, and these waves have traveled thousands and thousands of miles across the ocean from some weather disturbance on the other side of the ocean. It's traveled thousands of miles, and this blue water comes up like this, and I get to ride this energetic, because it is, you know, without the water there, it's just this energetic potential. I get to ride it. that we've figured out a technology that you can get this thing and ride it. And this force of the ocean, I get to enjoy it and play with it. And as I'm out there, there are these dolphins that are jumping out. And there are whales that go by off in the distance. And there are sea lions that come up. And there are sharks. There are great white sharks out here. They're all juvenile, so they don't attack us. They're big, though. A big great white, thinks it's little, but it's like 10, 8 feet long or something like that. Other sharks, the smaller ones, like if you go to Florida and you hear about the people who walk in ankle depth water and they get torn apart by sharks, those are bull sharks that are, 5 and 6 feet long. A great white 5 and 6 foot long would be afraid of everything. So they're totally afraid of me out here. But what an amazing place to live. Everybody who says they want to escape the matrix, they hate this. How can you hate this planet? It is so amazing. And your soul said, I want to go to that really bitchin' little video game. It has such cool stuff there. Forests and mountains and oceans and deserts and, how can you not want to have fun here? I kind of forgot what I was saying, but that's why my soul incarnated. Next time I might fulfill it in this lifetime. I might not. Maybe I want to come back in another one. Maybe I'll go next time. I want to come back. I'm not done surfing yet. When you've fulfilled all of your soul desires, then your soul says, okay, that was fun. I think I've done everything that I can possibly do in this place we call planet Earth. Okay, I'm done. What's next? Then you won't incarnate again. If you continue to do what we're talking about, which is deny what your soul wants to do, which is going to bring karma upon you, which is Saturn, which is going to bring the wrath of Jupiter on you, which is the teacher. If you continue to lie to yourself about what it is that you want, if you continue to please other people, if you continue to walk out of your own integrity, do damage to yourself, and buy into all the conspiracy theories, if you continue to ingest chemicals that make the liver unhappy, which will make you want to feel like a victim, because all victim mentality comes from a liver that's being attacked. And when people take alcohol, does it? Alcohol, marijuana, plenty of others. The liver gets upset, and then because it's being attacked, and then you feel angry and paranoid, and you don't trust anybody. And that's why you see that everything is out to get you. If you continue to do that, Jupiter is going to roll its eyes, and Saturn is going to want to put his thumb on you, and you'll come back, and the next life will be harder than this one. So if you're complaining about how tough your life is, drop the victim mentality, because if you don't, the next one's going to be even worse. And you're going to be the one that says, I got to get that lesson. I got to get that lesson. I'm going to make it harder for myself so I can finally stop being such a pussy. Because you can't be a human being and succeed if you're a pussy. This life is about fearlessness. This is why my ancestors believed that you go to Valhalla when you die in battle. Not because you die because you killed somebody, although that might be it. You might die defending your tribe or your family out of fearlessness. You go to Valhalla because you go after what your soul wants, and you are willing to die to get it. Guys that surf 50-foot waves and die doing it, they go to Valhalla. Because I know I'm a surfer. When the waves get 6, 7 feet tall, it's scary. That's enough to drown you. It's scary stuff when it gets that big. 10 foot, that's scary stuff. 50-foot waves, these are guys the only reason they're out doing is because their soul wants to do it. Because if you've ever been out in waves like that, you don't mess with that shit. Those guys died, they go to Valhalla. They've achieved their soul desire, and they died doing it. So whatever it is, if you want to have the family, if you want to be happy, if you want to, whatever the heck it is, I'm not saying you have to be, an extremist about it. It's just you have to be willing to do whatever the hell it takes. This is important. I was talking with somebody yesterday, and, this isn't the only one. I have numerous clients like this who it's so frightening to take those choices to be what you want to be. And I'm saying, you've got to make the decision. They say, well, what if this happens? And what if I can get this? And if I can get the money? And if I can get so-and-so to do that? And if I can make this happen? Like, you don't get it. You have to make the decision. And the decision is a rock-hard decision that says, no matter what, I am going after that. Even if it kills me, that's what I want. And I'm not accepting anything less than perfection for what I want. And if you die in the process, you may die in the process. The universe says, you get to go, you get to go, you get to exit the matrix. But if you are looking for a way out, the people who say to me, you know, I've got to find the way out of this matrix, if you're looking for the way out, you are doomed to go deeper into it. There is a matrix here in this planet. There is illusion here, and that's part of it. You know, people, you know, like when I drive into the city, you know, to go to my group, to hang out with my people who call me on my bullshit, I have to drive through LA, and I drive through and I go, why the hell would anybody live here? You know, I live on the beach, so, I mean, I live on a really great, wonderful beach. But people who live in, why? Why would you choose to live in that crap? Well, then I can imagine if that's all you're doing and you're living in your devices all day and you're this and that and you go to work and you're just, oh my God, buses and sirens and smog and buildings and would drive me crazy. Then I can see, yeah, life is miserable. But any one of those people could choose to do something different at any point in time, no matter how difficult the difficult the challenges are. If they made the decision that no matter what they were going to do it, it would happen for them. Okay, let's see here. Let me go back and find the questions. Question. Mangekyu Master. I don't know. Mange, K-Y-K-U. Question. In a past video, you mentioned that celestial Qigong, qigong.thunderwizard.com. In case you don't know, I got to put that up here. Because like the guy says, I am shame on me for promoting myself and trying to make a living. Qigong.thunderwizard.com. In a past video, you mentioned that celestial Qigong is recommended for nighttime practice. Is there a form of Qigong that you recommend for morning, daytime practice? Tai Chi. Tai Chi is perfect for that. Go find a good teacher. There's a lot of Tai Chi teachers out there that don't have the first fucking clue what they're doing. And they'll cause you more damage than good. Find a good teacher. Any kind of normal Qigong. You can do Thor's hammer. You can go onto my channel and type in Thor's hammer, or just go onto my channel and type in Qigong. Any of the Qigong that I have on there, you can do in the morning. But Thor's hammer will be great. It's perfect because Thor is the rising sun. You can face east as the sun is rising and do, you know, the Thor's hammer stuff. Free, by the way. Again, that same guy who said shame on me for wanting to promote a product did not take into account the hundreds of free teachings that are worth thousands of dollars that I give away for free. Ignorant people. Emerson's Coffee Bike and Rum Shop. Question. What is the difference between creating in the void of Gununga Gap and creating from your own selves? I'm not sure I know that there is a difference. Because your soul, Sawul, is the sun. We call the soul a she, right? So that means we're talking about the internal aspect of the sun. Our ancestors worshipped the sun as female. Sawul, Sunna. Sunna is the word for the sun goddess in the northern pantheon. Shunyata is the word in Sanskrit for emptiness. They seek to achieve shunyata, which is what? The emptiness of the soul. So the external part of the sun is Ra, which is masculine, the ray of the sun. It's hotter. The further away you go out of the sun, the rays get hotter. Even though it's extremely hot at the internal part of the sun, it's cooler in the internal part of the sun than it is in the external part of the sun. Internal. The way that the sun creates light and heat is that there is such an intense gravitational field that the molecules of hydrogen are smashed in nuclear fusion. That is Gnunga Gap. That is the emptiness of pure potential. The soul is the soul. The soul is the soul. The sun is the sun. The soul is the soul. So your soul in there, when you manifest from the depths of your soul, you are manifesting from Gnunga Gap, which is pure unmanifested potential. So now that you've asked that question, there is no difference. That was a pretty cool question. That was a great question. Because that got me onto a really weird, trippy thing, man. Where'd we go? Sky-clad face seeking truth. Question completely off track here. Are you ever going to surf in J Bay? If so, would you come teach my son? I would love to surf J Bay. I would love to do that. I haven't traveled there yet. But I would love to do that. I'm not making any promises to teach your son. I'd charge you money for that. Yeah, if you're willing to pay my price. Swift Data question. Do we have free choice or determinism? Have you watched my videos? What did I just get through saying? Answer your own question. Put some effort into listening. Answer your own question. Wilma Hopkins question. Are you any further forward in offering rune certification? I am. I am further along because I've finally finished my Vedic Astrological certification. I finally finished that. And if you go to astrology.thunderwizard.com, you will see the first of others to come. There's one apprentice who is now able to take orders on my website, Thunder Wizard Astrology Readings. So by the way, you have two ways to get a reading from me. You can get a reading from me, and you can pay my price. I do a couple of things that the apprentices don't do, and that's just because it's too complicated for me to teach. So if you want something with a little extras on there, you can get one from me for my price, or you can save $100 and get one from one of my apprentices at my old price of $108. So I am closer, which means now I can start thinking that and creating that. So it's not going to happen tomorrow. But here's the thing. One thing I found out about my students, and that includes people who watch the channel. If you're aligned with me, which means you respect me, and you respect the teaching, then what that means is if you think about something you want me to talk about or teach, I will somehow get some strange idea to start talking about something. Happens all the time. Because that's how it works. My guides speak through me, and your guides speak to my guides. So if there's something that you need to learn, and you are destined to be connected to me on that level, then my guides will inspire me to talk about it or teach it. All right. All right, let's see, what else? Question, why do souls choose certain things? To learn. That's why. Let's see. All right, so let's take a little bit of a break here, and I'll come back, and then I'm going to share with you the stuff you're seeing in the news, how Saturn and Jupiter, and I'm getting all giggly inside, how Saturn and Jupiter are creating this scenario, and how we are going to watch. I don't know if we're in the last phases of it, but definitely the fall of the elites is coming. They're going to crash hard, man. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a second. Let's see, where's theirs? Okay, so um, I want to talk about some great questions today, but I want to make sure that I say what it is that I wanted to say. So when you've got this combination of Jupiter retrograde and Saturn retrograde, you've got teachers becoming harsher, who are slapping the karma out of you with the lightning bolt. And yet Saturn in Sagittarius is then going to hold those teachers accountable. So that means that the masses are going to want to come up and challenge them. And if they're not in their highest awareness, then they're going to accuse them of things that aren't true because that's Saturn out of balance. But it's going to be an interesting, you know, that Saturn and Jupiter coming together like this. It's very interesting. Saturn is the law, is the judge, the one who implements the law. Jupiter is the one who writes the law. So Jupiter writes the law. Jupiter says this is how we need to do it, and this is what people are supposed to do. This is how life is supposed to go. This is how everybody gets along. And Saturn says, okay, so if people break that, I'm going to punish them. I'm going to put you in jail if you don't do what Jupiter says. So here we've got Jupiter. He's shooting at the lightning bolt. And then Saturn is saying, if you don't listen to what he's saying, I'm going to put my thumb on your head. The opposite of that is that the lightning will liberate you. If you accept the teaching, if you accept the directness of Jupiter retrograde, then what ends up happening is then that Saturn then says, oh, I'm going to release you from jail. I'm going to give you a pardon. I'm going to, your sentence, give you a suspended sentence. So when you're on the opposite side of that, then Saturn retrograde wants to release you from your imprisonment. So when you get the two together, ideally, Jupiter hits you with the lightning bolt, which then brings the realization, and then Saturn says, now you're free to go. And Saturn gives you peace, gives you stability. One of the seed sounds for Saturn is Shanti, Shang, which is peace. So Saturn brings peace. You only get peace after you have paid your price for going against your own integrity, which is what all karma is. All negative, karmic punishments are simply because you walked out of your own integrity. It's not because you did something to somebody else. If, in fact, you did do something to somebody else, you were walking out of your own integrity when you did it. And in order to get back into your integrity, you have to learn how that affected the other people. That's why some people are born with certain, illnesses or whatever. It's either they wanted to learn or they needed to learn because, they had in a previous life walked out of their integrity and harmed themselves by harming other people. It's never about other people. It's always about you. Always about you. So this is what can come together. And this is why, up until this, I don't know about you, but up until this, I was feeling really anxious and uncomfortable. And I'm seeing now that what was happening is that on an energetic level, I was feeling retrograde Jupiter and retrograde Saturn coming together to create this. And it was like, it was difficult because planets that heavy and that powerful, before they go into whatever it is, that you start to feel the effects before it gets to you. But now that it's here, now all of a sudden I feel the release. You can see it in the way that I'm talking, and the passion with which I'm talking, and the confidence with which I'm talking. So now it's like, good, finally. Saturn is coming to release that. Whew. So the good side is that if you have been working hard, if you've been really devoted to your discipline, Saturn is going to say, okay, good, man, now you can relax. You find, here, let me help you up the last couple of steps. Because you've earned it. That's the thing about Jupiter, too. The thing about teachers. I am harsh with my students, especially in the beginning, because I don't know if they have the ability to follow through. It's not entirely true. If people work with me, I'm actually very patient and very accommodating and very nurturing and all that. But when a teacher sees that the student has the discipline to follow through and respects the teaching and follows through with what they're being instructed to do, then it makes the teacher really, really want to dote on that student. And they may not show it, they may not talk about it, but it makes them really want to. Like, I try really hard. If I see a student, even if I'm direct with them, if I see that they are really working at it, I'll tell them. You know, I'll tell them what I see. And just to help them understand that when I'm being direct with them, it's really because I'm only wanting to help you in the only way that I know how, which comes from my experience. So let's get to the fun stuff. All right. So here's what has happened in the news just in the past couple of days. Right? One is, let's get the biggest jerk out of the way. Alex Jones. I've never liked the guy. I think that he is he just, his entire shtick is to keep people in he's so full of crap. Anyway, I didn't know this about him until today, and now I have even less tolerance for him. Remember the Sandy Hook incident? Children getting killed by gunfire? He has been going and broadcasting that the parents have lied about this. The parents who have lost children due to the gun violence, that they have lied about it. I don't know what he thinks the agenda they have is. But, and he has done it repeatedly. He'll go on, and the result has been, it's one thing to say that about somebody, but the result has been that the parents of these children who were killed were getting death threats. So they not only have to go through the hell of losing their child to gun violence, but on top of that, then they have to go through listening to somebody tell them that they're faking it. I can't even imagine what that must be like for them. And then on top of that, they have people giving them death threats because what this jerk says has no responsibility for the bile that he spews just to get ratings. Because listen, there's money in keeping people in fear. There's a ton of money out there. If I wanted to be a cult leader, the easiest one, it would be just so easy to create one. I could create one out of fear and archons and aliens and the government and, vampires and all of that. And I could create a cult out of that. And I would be such a good actor. I could come in and I could spew a line and get people so afraid because I have that ability. This guy obviously does too. Anyway, he is now being sued for, I think, by multiple people for, at least $2 million. And the case is looking pretty good against him. And I can imagine that this might be something that could take him out. Now, I don't know that, but, that could take him out. What's happening is that when Rahu last year went over Leo with the eclipse, Rahu said, I'm going to bring all the secrets out, because that's what Rahu does. Rahu is about secrets. And so what else do we have going on? We've got the Russia investigation, and I'm sorry, I don't know which side you're on, but I'm just telling you, I was worried about it, but this thing can't stop now. And we're going to find out something, I think, that is going to be very disastrous to the Trump presidency. I think it's going to be the end of the presidency. When exactly, I don't know. But I think we're going to see that there's going to be evidence that cannot be denied. Undeniable evidence. Listen, there's the reason, the guys, nobody acts like that unless they're afraid of something. I don't know what he has or hasn't done, but he certainly is afraid of something. Otherwise, he wouldn't act the way he does. And then you have Stormy Daniels and Trump's lawyer. And what have we just found out? Is that Sean Hannity, this guy who has been defending Trump's lawyer from the beginning, is one of his only 3 clients. He's only one of 3. Now, I don't know what he's got on him, but from what I understand, there's no way that lawyer would out him like that unless he had some document that now the feds have. The government has all of his documents, all of his secrets, and there's got to be something on Sean Hannity, whether it's, it may not be anything big, but it's enough that the lawyer had to say, yes, he's one of my clients, because you're going to find it in these documents that you're going through. That's what it means. He wouldn't say it if there wasn't something in the documents that would show that there was some kind of relationship, even if it's just he gave him $10 to give him advice on how to do whatever it was. It's going to be something that doesn't make him look good. This is all coming down to Jupiter and Saturn now are bringing in the effects of what Rahu came to do. Rahu said, I'm going to reveal the secrets of the king. I'm going to reveal the secrets of the elite. And I'm going to say something here, I'm trying to avoid as much specificity as possible, because I know there's a lot of people on my channel that have different political viewpoints than I do, and I can feel how upset you are with the things I'm saying. So I won't say everything that I feel, but I forgot what I was going to say now. What was I going to say? What is going to happen? What I wanted to say is that this goes back to what I was saying about being uneducated. So there's actually uneducation where you don't know, like you don't know where the countries are on the map. You can't look at a map and know without somebody writing on there where countries are, where geography is, what religion is, how to spell, how to think critically, how to know the difference between somebody's opinion and the truth, how to be able to tell the difference between your emotional agenda and what is actually right in front of you. These are all parts of education. And this doesn't mean that everybody who has a degree is a critical thinker or is wise. But it's very difficult to go through actual education and learning science and learning philosophy and things like that without at least being introduced to the concepts that will teach you how to be a critical thinker. That was my favorite class in all the college that I've had. And I had 8 years of college. I've got, even though I've got a BA, I've got enough. If I wanted to take a test, I could get a doctorate in all the stuff I've studied. But my favorite class that I ever took was the class, and ironically, it was taught to me in a Christian college, was critical thinking. It gave me the ability to analyze reality on so many levels and be able to come to conclusions. You can't do that without at least an internal education. I'll give you another example. This was again during the election, and this subject of education was coming up because the 30 to 35% of the United States population that was really into this, the whatever, far right, let's just say it that way, were uneducated white people who hadn't been to college and had not left their hometown. And so these were the people who watched Sean Hannity and the Drudge Report and Alex Jones and Fox News exclusively. They only got their information from that because they then were emotionally able to graft their emotions onto the opinions that were being thrown at them. Because again, Sean Hannity, Alex Jones, they're opinion journalists, meaning they can say whatever the hell they want and they don't have to back it up. So these are people who only got their news from opinions which happen to align with their emotional agendas. So again, these are people who don't have critical thinking skills. This aligns with that. Again, I got kind of lost. I can feel how angry some people are as I'm saying this. I'm losing subscribers by the second. But what's going to happen now? Oh, I was talking about critical thinking. So critical thinking was my favorite course in college because critical thinking says, listen, if you want to find out the truth, there are ways to find out the truth. And in order to find out the truth, you have to be a critical thinker. Critical thinking says that everything that somebody says, every opinion, including me right now, they have an emotional agenda. The question is whether or not they are aware of what their emotional agendas are. Everybody has an emotional agenda. So that's why when somebody comes to you with the Bible and says, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, I am coming here to give you the truth, and then you may attack, their lack of, their judgmentalism or their, whatever it is they'll say. It doesn't matter. God is the truth, and God has spoken. These are people who don't know their emotional agendas. They have attached themselves to Christianity because it meets them emotionally. There's an emotional, psychological need that is met by that, and they are unaware of it. So they can't tell you why it appeals to them emotionally. They can only tell you that it is the truth. So first thing is you have to know that you have an emotional agenda, and that whoever you are, will gravitate towards beliefs and people and activities that will feed your emotional agenda. So the first thing is to know that about yourself. You can't avoid having an emotional agenda, and anybody who says they don't, that's the person to stay away from that person, because they can't be honest with you about why they're doing what they're doing or saying what they're saying. They're only driven by their emotions, and they have to justify their emotions with whatever belief system, whether it's political or racial or spiritual or religious or economic. See what I mean? So the first thing you learn is that everybody has an emotional agenda, and people who are emotionally mature are able to say, yeah, I have an emotional agenda about this, but here's why I believe it. Second thing that you learn is that you have to be able to distinguish subtlety within something anybody says. When somebody gives you a blanket statement, the sun is in the sky. Yes, right now, if I go outside, the sun is in the sky. I can see it. But that's not the case on the other side of the world. If you're watching me on the other side of the world, the sun might not be in the sky. So you have to say, when is something true and when is something false? So it is an absolute truth that the sun is in the sky. But then you have to go deeper and you say, when is something sometimes true and sometimes false? Well, it is sometimes true that the sun is in the sky. The person on the other side of the world says, well, the sun is in the sky, but not here. It's on the other side of the world. So sometimes the sun is in the sky directly above me. When is something true? When is something false? When is something partially true? And when is something partially false? When is something sometimes true and sometimes false? So when is something partially true and sometimes partially false? You cannot examine things or what people say. When somebody throws out a fact, you cannot answer those questions if you are operating from your own emotional agenda blindly. But if you have the ability to take your emotional agenda and put it aside and go, okay, I really want to believe this, but let's ask these questions and see if it's true or not. I'll give you another example. This was a guy who moved here. I've lived here in this part of Southern California off and on for my whole life. I grew up here. And I can absolutely tell you that 40 years ago, the temperature was different here. That it was cooler in the summertime, and it was a little colder in winter. But summertime especially, it was cooler. And if you lived by the beach, you didn't have an air conditioner because you didn't need it. Because the average temperature in the middle of July and August was around 76, 77 degrees. Little bit of a light breeze. Every now and then, we would get what's called Santa Ana, which was the the desert winds would come in, and then it would get up to maybe 85 for a couple of days at a time. You know, it was big if it lasted for a week. But you didn't have to have an air conditioner because you just didn't need it. Now you do. Because now when we get those heat waves, it gets up to 90, 95, 100 degrees at the beach. It gets really hot. And so my downstairs neighbor, who's not from here, he said, and I was talking about I had to turn on my air conditioner, you know, during a heat wave or something. It's one of those that you buy at, you know, you buy at the hardware store and you put it into your window. You know, the hose comes out and the hot air goes out the window. And he says, why aren't there any window air conditioners installed? He says, I mean, why don't they have that here? And I said, because until recently, nobody needed them. Now they do. So this is a very real thing. You know, some of you who live in different parts of the country, you know, especially if you live north, like, you know, when we're getting all these heavy snowstorms down here in the Midwest, the North Pole is, the ice is melting because it's hotter than normal. All that cold air is getting pushed downward. This is one of the things that climate change does. So I had a friend of mine, he's still a friend of mine, I haven't talked to him for a while, but he did not like the idea of global warming, and he was saying that it hadn't been proven scientifically. And I could tell that he had an emotional agenda behind it. I have a nose for that. And so I said, I don't believe you. He said, what do you mean? I said, you know that the majority of scientists are saying, you know, not only the majority, the vast majority. You know, and when scientists say, we can't prove it yet, but there's a 95% probability, they're telling you it's a fact. It's statistically a fact. That's science speak for saying it's a fact. And I'm saying, you know that. So don't give me this nonsense about it hasn't been proven. I know you're watching listening to some right-wing radio shows that are saying that. So I said, what is it that you get out of this belief? Now, he is an honest guy. To his credit, he's honest. And I said to him, what is it that is really motivating why you don't want to accept the idea? You don't want to say that global warming is a farce. You just don't want to accept that it's potentially real. You want to stay in that we don't know if it's true or not. And I said, tell me why you believe that. And he said, well, because I have a Camaro, a 76 Camaro or whatever it is. And I don't want the government to come and ban fossil fuels because then I won't be able to drive my car. Now, he had an assumption in there that somewhere along the line the government was going to step in. He had some fear-based idea that the government was going to take away his gasoline. And I said, really, that's your reason for not wanting to believe is because you don't want to not drive your 76 Camaro? And he said, yes. And I said, well, I mean, as much as I despise what you just said, I have to at least acknowledge that you had the honesty to tell me that. So that's a sign of somebody who at least has the ability to acknowledge his emotional agenda. Now, there are plenty of other people just out there just like him that are operating from some fear-based belief system that are unwilling to acknowledge it, not because they haven't critically looked at the facts in front of them, but because they emotionally can't stand the thought of whatever it is, the government taking their gasoline away from them. This is you're going to find this with people who are uneducated. And this is why you have in our country, you have now all of the right-wing politicians, except for those who are retiring, who are holding up all of the bullshit. So what I want to say to you is that those of you who are most into conspiracy theories are the ones who are being lied to and manipulated by the elite. There are conspiracies, and those people running those conspiracies are spewing out propaganda to make you believe in other conspiracy theories. They know that at your base you are stupid and ignorant and uneducated. I'm saying that from their perspective, not mine. That's how they see you. They see you as stupid, ignorant fools. And the people that you are putting into power, who you think are going to protect your rights, are the very people who are going to take away your money, your protection, and your freedom. And you can't see it because you're being driven by your own fear-based emotional agendas. And you are prime targets for manipulation. So I just need to let that sink in. That is Jupiter and Saturn coming to you. I'm telling you. And those who are perpetrating it, we are going to see them fall. I don't know for how long, but you're going to see things come out that are going to be incontrovertible. And you've got, let's take Stormy Daniels for a second. Who is Stormy Daniels? Stormy Daniels is an adult. She's a porn star. And, you know, the other day she came up and was talking about, she's basically fighting for the masses, fighting for those who can't speak for themselves, and saying that they're going to fall. She was being empowered by Jupiter and Saturn. Saturn especially, because as a porn star, she represents the masses. She represents the working class. Because she's technically a prostitute. She's not a prostitute, but she technically gets paid to have sex. Makes her a prostitute, which is among the classes, the lower classes. The rising of the lower classes. This is why people are wanting to point fingers at teachers. This is why people are wanting to attack me for saving them money and giving other people opportunities to make money through my channel. I mean, listen, I'm losing money in the prospect in the beginning, you know, by doing this. I'm not making money, I'm losing it. And I'm doing it to not only give myself more time, but to give other people an opportunity to make more money. And I can easily get ripped off. But, so, see what I mean? But that's why people are wanting to point fingers at teachers. Because the Saturn in them is either revealing to them the lies that those teachers are giving them. And so they are rightly pointing fingers and saying, you know, that person is lying to me. That, you know, I'll give you one, he's dead, but Satya Sai Baba. I don't know if you're familiar with him. Very famous Indian teacher. And what he was known for was manifesting things. Like he'd show up and he would like watches and like money and candy. You know, he would make these things appear out of thin air. And of course it was sleight of hand. You know, he had them in his pocket and he learned how to make them appear out of nowhere. And so, you know, people, I mean, you know, like literally throwing money and watches and candy onto people. And it looked like it was just coming out of thin air. Or ashes. There are teachers that will show up and out of nowhere ashes will come out of their hand. And it's done with sleight of hand. And people are finding out that that's bullshit, that they're finally being lied to, that that's not, a teacher isn't somebody who comes along and makes candy come out of his hand. How ridiculous is that? That's Saturn pointing up. But if you're meant to be a teacher and you are lying to yourself about you want to teach and you feel like you're a fraud, then you're going to point fingers at real teachers and call them frauds. Like the guy did to me. I mean, there's just nothing behind what he said. And that, I mean, maybe he could find something out true in some other way, but in that way, he was totally off base. But that's because he's in denial that he wants to be a teacher. He won't admit it to himself. So Saturn is bringing that mirror up to him, and that feeling that he has of shame, of wanting to be a teacher because he thinks that he's a fraud, he's then projecting it onto me. Okay? All right, so I wanted to get some of that stuff out. I said some other things that I wasn't planning on saying, so, you know, I know that some of you on the far right are not going to like that, but, oh well, who gives a shit? Let's see. Let's see if there are any questions here. G-Stuff question, do you have a connection to Theosophy? No, and don't ask me about other teachings. It's disrespectful to me and to them. I don't have a question. I don't have a connection to them. Vejito Busquets says, question, I have refined techniques from a decade of Hindu astrology research and want to make sure that the software I'm using puts them into best use. I don't know why you're asking me this. I'm not a software engineer, so I'm not even going to answer that question. Sky-clad face seeking truth. Oh, no, okay, that's not a question. Somebody's defending him, Nemo Blade. I believe that Alex Jones contends that Sandy Hook was a false flag, a.k.a. it was orchestrated by black ops and didn't really happen. You really fucking believe that shit? Do you honestly fucking believe that bullshit? The only way somebody can even think that that's partially true is if they're completely ignorant and uneducated and emotionally immature. There's no other way for that to land on you as something that's reasonable. I'll give you another story. This was a friend of mine who went to Miami to visit family members. And so there was a bunch of family in Florida, and they all decided they were going to meet in Miami Beach, I think it was, and have dinner. And so everybody shows up, and then there was this family that was going to show up, and they're not showing up. And it's like 20 minutes goes by, and they're not showing up. And so they start asking, where are these people? So they start, texting and calling. These are people who lived in the rural part of Florida, white, Republican, who lived in their hometown and they never left their hometown. People who were total far right, anti-immigration, anti-Muslim, anti-foreigners, and they totally 100% into that. They finally got a hold of them. They were in their car in the parking lot. They hadn't stepped out of their car for 20 minutes because they were afraid of the black and brown people walking around. They were so conditioned to believe that black people and Hispanic people were all criminals and were going to steal from them and break into their car. They didn't have the guts to get out of their car and walk into the restaurant. This is the kind of person that's going to believe what you just said there. I'm not saying that you believe that. I don't know if you believe that or not. You obviously have watched it, or you wouldn't even know why that's in the realm of possibility. Come on, wake the fuck up. Seriously. If maybe I'll start telling you guys what the real conspiracies are, because they are out there. I don't talk about them. The reason why I don't talk about them is because I just don't believe in getting into that. I just don't think it's helpful to focus on that because it has no bearing on my life. If I choose to live in my integrity and live fearlessly, whatever conspiracies that are out there aren't going to touch me. So that's why I don't talk about them. I could go into why I think somebody said that, but come on, seriously. Yeah. All right, so let's see if there are any other questions here. Sun Timpani question, I'm in a North Star 9 year. Do you have any thoughts or input on being in the North Star 9 year with the current Jupiter-Saturn energies? Well, for those of you who don't know, North Star astrology is that you go in 9-year cycles and you're in one of the 8 directions or the center. The center is the 9th year. So it's working with the 9 directions as we have here in the Thunder Wheel. So that means if you're in the 9th year, that means you're in the center, which is Midgard, which means that all of the other 8 worlds are pouring in all their energy on you. And the rest of the time, when you're not in the ninth year, you're in one of the other directions, which means that you're experiencing all the things that are in connection to that world. So when you're in Midgard, it means that all of the other powers are coming in all at you at once. So these are the years where you get married or you get divorced, you win the lottery, you become homeless, people die. My fiance and she died 6 months ago. We were both in a 9-year last year, and that's when she died. And that's when I went through the loss of my ultimate partner. So we both went through that. So there's ups and downs. At the same time, I had the best year. My finances went through the roof, and my business started taking off. So that's the 9th year. Anything and everything can happen. It's going to be intense. So the way to answer that is that you do your ritual. Like if you have a mantra and a ritual and a spiritual discipline, this is the year to do that, because what's going to happen is everything is going to want to make you, knock you out of your integrity. You know, and I got knocked out of my integrity a few times. I won't lie to you. I'm not going to tell you what I did, but I got knocked out of my integrity a few times. And if you, to the extent that you stay in your integrity and you don't allow all that stuff to knock you out of your integrity and do stupid things, then you're building a foundation for blessings for the next 9 years. If, however, you are not a critical thinker and you respond to your emotional fear-based agendas and you are knocked out of your integrity, then you are setting yourself up for 9 years of misery, because it goes in cycles of 9 years. So to answer your question, you know, really just really focus on getting yourself spiritually connected. Do your mantras and your meditation and whatever spiritual discipline you have. And, you know, get a reading from me if you haven't already. Sounds like you already have, but get a reading from me or one of my apprentices and learn how to, you know, which deities and which planets want to help you. You can go here to astrology.thunderwizard.com to get a reading. That's my best suggestion for you. Okay, so. No, I don't live in San Diego. I live in Los Angeles. Let's see here. Question, how do you spell what sounds like Arruda? A-R-U-D-H-A. So since you've asked that, I have to tell you what the Arruda is. The Arruda is this is one of the things that my reading focuses on, that even Vedic astrologers don't even know about, or they don't focus on. The Arruda, in my experience, especially in these times now, because now things, you know, what you did, say, 500 years ago or 1,000 years ago is you looked at your 10th house to see what your career was, which was your fame, because your career was your fame. It's not true now. For instance, my last name, Denny, it means Danish. And it comes from during the Middle Ages when the Vikings invaded England. They were called Danes, and they, you know, for hundreds of years they had conquered big parts of Britain. And so one of my ancestors was a Dane, and so he became so-and-so the Danish, so-and-so Denny. That was his fame. That was his 10th house. It didn't mean what he did. He could have been a farmer. He could have been a warrior. He could have been a priest. He could have been a chieftain. We don't know. But whatever was, his fame was that he was a Viking, or descended from Vikings. He was Danish. But now your fame isn't your career. But there is this thing called the projection, or the reflection. Arruda means reflection. And it means that people see your reflection, they don't see your essence. So like I said, in terms of what used to be true for the 10th house, you used to look at somebody's 10th house to see what their career was. You know, my ancestor, he was the Viking. Oh, the Viking. But he could have been anything. We don't know what he did for a living. He was known for being a Viking or descendant of Vikings. Nowadays, you have your reflection. So your reflection is when you were born. I was born a Leo. which means that I have moon in the first house, which means that I feel very emotional and I have to connect with my emotions physically. And I'm a Leo, which means I'm very out there and I'm very, that's why I'm out there all the time. It's part of my Leo nature. I'm out there. My emotions out there for everybody to see. That's Leo with moon in the first house. So when you get to know me, you get to see that that's who I am. But when you first meet me, you don't see that. You only see my reflection. Just like when you look at a flower, you only see the reflection of the color in the petals. You don't take a microscope to see, what the molecular makeup of the flower is. No, you hold it like this and you look at it. You look at the light that's reflecting off of the flower and it creates an impression in your mind which is pleasurable to you. My Arruda is Mars in Libra, which is the warrior of balance, the warrior of balance. It's the best way to put it. The Libra also is Venus, which means kind of has a spiritual take to it. So the peaceful warrior of balance. When people first meet me, that's what they see. As long as I'm connected to that, if I allow myself, like if I get all dark, which I can do, I can get really scary. So that comes out when I go inward. See what happens when I go inward? I look really scary. Right? But if I allow myself to come out, and I wear sleeveless shirts, and I do all this, and yeah, look at me, and hey, then I make people feel safe, and they want to be around me. They want to be close to me because I am going to protect them and bring balance. I'm the guy that's going to come in and keep the two other bullies from fighting each other. And that's what they see. When they first see me, they want me to be proud and happy and big and puff my chest out and smile so that they'll feel safe. And your Arruda will show you how people want to see you and how you can be successful. Because the Arruda is going to show you how to be successful. My Arruda says, if I really look at the nakshatra, which is the star constellation underneath the sign and the planet, if I look and see exactly where Mars is, it has to do with the internet, it has to do with speaking on a regular basis, it has to do with speaking my mind and just spouting my opinions like what I do. I come on once or twice a week and I just spout for 2 hours. That's my Arruda. And that's what people want to see. The more that I do that, the more subscriptions I get, the more business I get, because your Arruda will show you exactly how you are going to be successful. So even if you are the Danish, so if I was, Denny the Viking, I am the Viking who brings peace. I was that one Viking who said, okay, all right, you're Saxon and we're Viking and let's come together and why don't you marry my daughter and we'll make an alliance and we'll protect each other, right? So that's the Arruda. You can only get that through Vedic astrology, and I'm one of the few Vedic astrologers that will really show you what your Arruda is and how you can implement it. But if you want to be successful, not only in personal, but in business, career, you need to know what your Arruda is. All right. There's a Q, which means question. Write out question, please, otherwise I can miss it. Which type of workout would you recommend for getting buff? Go to the gym and lift weights. Don't lift super heavy. Do slow contractions. Don't be one of those guys that throws their weights up. Use small weights and do lots of isolated stuff. If you're going to push it up slowly. Resist it as it's coming back down. And don't overdo it. Work out 3 days a week. You don't even have to do more than that. Then eat tons of protein. Eat 1 gram of protein per lean pound of body weight. So, if I were to trim down, I'd probably be 185 pounds. So that means I have to, if I want to keep my my muscle mass on here, I have to eat 185 grams of protein a day. That's going to be tough if you don't want to sit around and eat chicken all day, because chicken gets really boring. Then you're going to have to go get some protein powder. I like pea protein, or I use also hemp protein. So I'll have 3 or 4 of those a day before I go to bed, after I've eaten, like my dinner and everything. Before I go to bed, I have a huge glass of probably 30, 40 grams of protein. Otherwise, I wake up in the middle of the night hungry. In fact, I'm hungry right now, which means I need to eat protein. And then get plenty of sleep. There you go. Question. The meaning of number, I'm not a numerologist, so sorry, I can't help you with that. Nemo Blade question, which are the real conspiracies? I'm not going to spend the time doing that today. But I'm telling you this. The people, well, let me just put Koch Brothers. We'll start with that. Who do you think is funding all the people who are giving you all the bullshit conspiracies? Who are the people that are giving you the fear of the government? The people who have the most to lose. The Koch brothers started, by the way, this whole right-wing fundamentalist thing that started in the 80s, started with them. Because they, if you know anything about the Koch brothers, find out where they made their billions of dollars. Polluting. I mean, they have lots of products that I use. You find them everywhere. But it causes a lot of pollution. They didn't want the government telling them that they couldn't pollute. So they started to find ways to get politicians in there who would destroy government regulations. Now, the way they present it to you is taxes. But as you've seen, the tax cuts end up benefiting the people who have the money. The people who don't benefit are the poor people. And yet it's the poor people who run around going, I don't want to be taxed. I'm going to vote for the Koch brothers guys. Start with them. That's one of them. Paige Keller, question. You say to believe in conspiracies, you live in fear. But what's wrong with being skeptical? Denying the possibility is just as bad as believing them. So I don't know why you're wanting to argue with me. You're not really asking me a question. You're wanting to argue. What's wrong with being skeptical? You know there's nothing wrong with being skeptical. I'm not saying you shouldn't be skeptical. You know that. You know what the answer is. Your question is coming from you. I'm trying to get you to drop the fear, and you don't want to drop it. So you're giving me some kind of intellectual response about, well, but it's okay to be skeptical. You know what I'm saying. You know that I'm not saying that. So let's cut the bullshit. The question I'm going to respond back to you is, what is the fear you're not willing to let go of that you think is keeping you safe? You don't have to answer that. That's for you to think about. All right. All right, that's it. Let's take a little break, and then if there's anything else, you know, we've been on for a while, I'll come back. If not, I will relax for the rest of the day before I go to my group and have them call me on my bullshit, if that's what's going to happen. All right, so I'll be back in a couple minutes. Alrighty. Okay, let's see if there are any more questions here. I think I saw one. Thaddeus Murian says, question, do you still have the Master Class Initiate available? I'm looking to use this as a tool for regaining my integrity and discipline and the soon enough get an astrology reading. I'm not sure if I have any slots available at the moment. One of the reasons that I am doing the astrology certification is so that it'll free up more time for me, so that I can take more. So I don't know. You have to go on to thunderwizard.com to see. But I don't know if you're on the subscription level, the $25 subscription level. If you haven't, get started with that. I don't know if you're a subscriber or not. Get started with that and go through it. Yeah. So let's see. All right, so I wrote down Koch Brothers in case, if nobody's ever heard of them, that's how you spell their name. Google them. Find out what these people are all about. Find out who has been running right-wing politics for the past 30 years. And this is the culmination. They've been working really hard. What they want to do is they want to work really hard to make sure that nobody can step in to protect you from the abuses of big business. That's all they're about. And all of the money that they have spent has, you know, they will even give politicians on the state level. You have to look at what's going on locally too. On the state level and on the local level, these guys, when they back a client, they will give them like basically a how-to book, which will tell them how to vote. Even when they'll tell them how to bring up, they'll give them like they don't even have to learn how to create laws. They'll have these like these already pre-printed up templates for them to create bills that will get rid of government regulation on big business. And they do it under the guise of, we want to help the businessman and we want to free you from the government. They're not interested in freeing you from the government. They're interested in freeing themselves from being regulated so that they don't have to worry about polluting your water or taking money away from you or taking jobs away from you. They want to take away unions. They want... I'm telling you, man, these are the people that are backing this whole right-wing thing. These are the people that have created the Alex Joneses of the world. We wouldn't have Alex Jones for him. I'll tell you one reason why. Because back then, I guess, I don't know if this was in the 80s or 90s. In the 70s, if you remember, whenever there was any political commentary, you always had both parties. You had somebody from the Republicans and you had somebody from the Democrats. And if somebody was saying something or something was going on, you always had somebody to counter it. This was because that was written into the law. It was a law that on the news, when you shared an opinion story, there had to be two sides so that people could get both opinions. The Republicans shot that down so that you could have one-sided opinion-based journalism, which is what Fox News is, what Alex Jones is. Sean Hannity, it opened it up so that people could attack the other party and say whatever the hell they want and not have to back it up. And not have to have somebody there to argue the other side of it. And now you have a whole generation of people who only watch the news that fits their emotional agenda. So there are people that never hear what goes on. I've had students like this and they'll go on and on and on and I'll just say, well, what about this? And they'll go, I don't know what that is. And I'll go, well, you know what you're talking about. There's also this other thing that's been happening. And they'll go, no, I never heard that. Does that change your opinion? Yeah, that kind of changes my opinion about it. That's because you're only getting news from sources that tell you what you want to hear. It's time to wake up, man. Time to fucking wake up. Or they're going to take your country away from you. They're going to take your fucking country away from you. Okay. See if there's any other questions coming up here. Nemo Blade, are you seriously, you've never heard of the Koch brothers? If you're watching any right-wing political news, they're behind it. These are the guys that all the Republicans want to appease. Go find out. You seriously haven't heard of them. Go find out about these people. Yeah, and Alicia Cole here says that they also work to over-regulate small business so that they can get rid of the competition. You see how these guys are running so much international. These are the same guys that are saying that we need to get rid of globalism are the same people who have their fingers in businesses all over the world. You're being told one thing and they're doing something else. Everything that they're doing is designed to completely divert you so that they can fuck you from behind when you're not looking. Okay. Paige Keller says, it's not a question, but I'm gonna address this here. And I'm gonna give you an opportunity right here and right now. If you want to change your life, you can do it. This is your come to Jesus moment. She says, I think my fear is trusting anything. I don't know what is true anymore. Reality is subjective. Bullshit. You tell yourself that because you're afraid. It's easier to tell yourself that you don't trust anything and reality is subjective, because if you had to really take a look at what you know to be true, you're going to have to let go of a lot of things that you think unconsciously are keeping you safe. Fear is all about being safe, and life is all about fearlessness. The soul has come here to be fearless. The god of the sun one of the gods of the sun in the northern tradition is Balder. That's the Old Norse pronunciation of bold. His name means bold, and he is a sun god. The whole story about Balder is how the sun became trapped underneath flesh. It's the soul in the body. And the soul is fearless. The only time that we become fearful is when we get into a physical body, and then we have to make choices. There is only one thing that we really need to learn, if I'm boiling it down to absolutes. There's only one thing that the soul has come here to learn, which is to learn how to go after what it wants fearlessly, even in the face of death. Again, I talk about these surfers who ride these 70-foot waves. Like the waves are so big they have to get towed into them by jet skis. And then go Google it. It's just amazing. I'd never do it. I'll tell you, I'll never do it. I'm not that fearless. No way. I want to stay alive and breathe. But those guys are so carefree. You know, there's one in particular, and he's got to be my age. You know, he's in his 50s. Which means he's in really good physical condition. It's very inspiring to me to see somebody my age that has that kind of ability, that can be held down underwater for minutes at a time, you know, and have his bones, you know, arms pulled out of his socket. That's what happens when you fall in one of those big waves. First off, when you hit the water, it's like hitting cement because you're going so fast. And you hit that water and then you bounce up and down, and then the wave grabs you and picks you up and slams you down, and your arms are getting pulled out of your sockets, and you know, people die, but people get injured really badly. And these guys keep doing it, and they have the biggest fucking smiles on their faces. When you interview them, they're just the happiest guys in the world. And if you survive that, what the hell else is there to be afraid of? Really, you can look that in the face and not be afraid. There's nothing but smiles left. So, Paige Keller, do you want to let go of the fear? It's just that simple. Saying that you don't know what is true anymore means that you're unwilling to look at the truth, because if you did, you'd have to face your fear and let go of it. But the truth is that the universe only wants what is going to bring you happiness. And if you trust in the universe fearlessly and you are willing to let go of the people in your life who either really are in your life or are in your head, like even if your parents are dead, you're still trying to please them. When you're willing to stop pleasing them and going after what you want, and you're willing to die to have what makes you happy, then you'll know what's true. And then reality is not subjective anymore. That's why when people smoke pot, reality is subjective, because they're stuck in their heads, which is what's, again, the liver is full of fear, because THC attacks the liver, which makes the liver afraid for itself, which is why you get paranoid. Why you look outside of yourself. I'm not saying you smoke weed. I'm just saying. You get what I'm saying. Okay? Soros, a conspiracy. I don't know. By the way, guys, what is wrong with actually writing out a sentence? You could actually write, is Soros a conspiracy? So that we have an actual English sentence that makes sense that I can read. Why is that a problem? I don't know what Soros is, so I can't answer the question. Both sides are controlled. You're the pussy that stays in the middle. You don't want to offend either side. You have one side, you're probably on the right, but you want to act like you're in the middle, so you're going to say both sides are controlled. I'm calling bullshit on that. That's like people, who live in families and, they're a Democrat and their husband is a Republican, and they listen to their Republican husband go off all day about this and that and the blah, 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 and they say, oh, they're both, and I don't want to take a side. They have a side, they're afraid to take it because they don't want to piss off you want everybody to like you. I understand, listen, this is my channel and this is my business. And part of my business is to attract people and to keep people coming. And I know that a lot of right-wing Republicans, fear-based conspiracy theorists come onto my channel. So I've been, I don't say a lot. It's kind of risky for me to put my opinion out there. So I understand that. If I wanted to make the most money, I would stay in the middle. And I would say, oh, they're both controlled. Of course that's true. But that's a half-truth. All right, Emerson's Coffee Bike and Rum Shop dropped down $5. Thank you. She says, question, will you be doing a Walpurgisnacht YouTube special, please? Well, I'd have to know more about that. I know almost nothing about it, so I don't know. Question, G-Steph, what is your take on the Syrian issue? Do you think most people believe the last lie? Oh, so you're not asking me. You're telling me that the chemical attack was a lie. I don't even have to ask you where you get your news from. I'm starting to get a headache. That made me so angry. Your question made me so angry at you that you would ask that stupid fucking question. Wake the fuck up, man. Pull your fucking head out of your ass. Really. What do you think do you think that it was made in a Hollywood studio? Little kids suffocating and dying? I almost just really, if you think I'm being harsh with you, I almost came at you so fucking hard. Wake the fuck up, man. Seriously. Go read a book. Go take a college course. Get the fuck out of your mother's basement and get a life. It really did happen. And I'm telling you, if you hold on to that kind of bullshit thinking, if you want to hold on to that, there's some major karma coming your way, pal. Just that you will support that. You're really lucky you're not in my face right now. I wouldn't physically harm you, but I would tear you a new one for that kind of shit. Wake the fuck up. Tiger, oh, okay, that's not a question. Question. Emerson's Coffee Bike and Rum Shop. You mentioned a ritual to Thunor in a previous video. Is there a specific ritual, or do we make up our own? Well, that depends. If you had a reading from me, I may have given you a specific Thunor ritual based on where Jupiter is in your chart, or Mars, or Moon, depending on which aspect of Thunor I want to bring out. If you don't have a reading from me, again, I recommend it. If you want one, go get one. Go to, hang on. I got so pissed off at that guy. Go to go to astrology.thunderwizard.com if you want to learn about how to worship Thor. So you'd have to ask the astrologer, you know, how best to worship Thor or Thunar in your chart. Because depending on where Jupiter is and what sign it's in will tell you which direction to face and which offering to give. Okay? All right. All right. G Steph, I'm about this close to blocking you because if you keep asking these stupid questions, and for my own health, I've got so much retrograde Jupiter and Saturn going on in me. For my own health, I may have to do that. Then why is it like I'm watching Iraq, Afghanistan #2? I don't know what the fuck you're asking. Wake the fuck up, man. Sorry, it's just, you know, I mean, you see little kids. You see little kids. That's the toughest part. You know, it's not like a bomb went off. It's they're being suffocated in their own home, poisoned in their own home, and for some fucking asshole to even begin to use that in their own way to turn it around because they're so fucking wrapped up in their fear-based, their need to be wrapped up in their fear-based, theories of you know, the government this, and you can't trust anything in front of you. You know, that is eroding our democracy. That's what's going to destroy the country. Because when you get to the point where you actually put the facts in front of somebody, and because they have an emotional need to believe in some bullshit that somebody told them, which fans their fears about the deep state is coming to get, and that's why everything is a lie, and that's why the world is flat, and that's why little kids in Syria are not being poisoned to death. Then it doesn't matter. There's no point in having the law. You can't have the law. You can't come and say, here is the irrefutable evidence that this person committed a crime. People will say, nope, he's my president, or you know, Putin is the best person in the world. That's how democracies fall apart. And again, it's, you know, you're going to see this in the 35% of the population that lives in their hometown, that never leaves their hometown and has never been to college or never, you know, bothered to study. You don't necessarily have to go to college to become educated, but it helps. Because then you have somebody telling you, yes, let's read this and let's read that. As opposed to you now just deciding to go and watching whatever you want on YouTube or, you know, the NRA channel or the Fox News channel. You got to wake the fuck up or we're going to lose our democracy. Sorry. Seriously, though. I have no patience for that shit. Anyway, at the expense of losing all of my subscribers. All right, so I don't see any more questions. Let me take a breather and get my... Yeah, go tell that to the little fucking kids. You know, the thing is, I actually know people. This may be part of it. One of the guys that I went to college with, and one of the guys that I did the theater company with, is a guy who grew up in Syria. He escaped Syria. He escaped Syria by the hair on his ass. And he has this whole story about how he, how he got out of Syria and how he went through, had to go through Saudi Arabia and blah, blah, blah. And when he came here, he tells the story. He came to the U.S., he didn't speak a word of English. Anyway, I won't get into the story. It's a really funny story. But he's really smart and really successful, and he's one of the greatest freedom-loving guys I know. And he'll tell you about this fucking asshole Assad and what this fucker is really like. So when I hear people like you, who I know, you don't have the first fucking clue. You haven't stepped out of your mother's basement. You're watching all this shit on the news. You have a fear-based belief system. And you want to believe in the deep state. And you want to believe in all these conspiracies that you can't prove because the nature of it. Oh, it's so secret you can't prove it. But they're there. And they're aliens. And they're blah, blah, blah. And they're doing this. And then you spout that bullshit that's a lie. Go tell that to those little fucking kids who are gasping for breath because somebody dropped a chlorine bomb on their hometown. Go fucking tell him that. Get the fuck out of your ass. Pull your head out of your ass and find out what's really going on and get out of your fear. Because this shit will destroy us. What do you think Nero was? Nero burned down Rome. This is the kind of shit you are setting yourself up for. That kind of belief system. When nothing is true, and that there is no rule of law, and that the elites are not being held accountable, and you are allowing yourself to be hypnotized by them, the very people who are wanting to take advantage of you are telling you what you want to hear, and then you're giving them all the power in the world, and they don't give a flying fuck about you. It's really destructive, that kind of thinking. Really destructive. Anyway, yep, Jupiter and Saturn retrograde. You've never seen me go off like this before, have you? All right, so. What is this? Okay, all right, never mind. Somebody was actually on my side. This is the person. This is the person who had problems. Who had problems not being affected by other people's illnesses. You wanted to calm me down, right? It's okay for me to be angry about this. Sometimes it's okay to be angry. It's okay for me to be angry about this. It's okay for you to be angry about it too. That will be actually healthy for you, to acknowledge your anger. You know who I'm talking to. You know who you are. You get your views on the issue from Syrians. Which Syrians? The ones who are getting bombed or the ones that are fighting for Assad? So you're getting the message from one side. Syrian news, are you getting your message from Syrian news? If you're getting message from Syrian news, then you know that none of our missiles hit their target. That the Syrian defense forces blasted out all of our missiles. Right? Wrong. Every single one of them hit their target. You're not getting news, my friend. If you're getting your news from Syrians, you're not getting the news. That's the whole idea. It is a dictatorship. This is why it's so dangerous when the President of the United States attacks the news organizations. The news organizations that are critical of him. He attacks them and wants to shut them down. That's what tyrants do. This is what I'm saying. You're not fucking careful, you're going to lose your freedom. Okay? Got to be careful. All right, so let's see. Alex Thorpe, question. Can you shed any more light on the connection of Jupiter to China? Yes. So, the Hopi mythology, which I firmly believe in, even though I'm not Hopi, nor have I been trained in Hopi mythology, I firmly believe in it. Hopi mythology goes like this. It says, In the beginning of the human race, the Great Spirit, whatever that is to you, told the people that they were going to be sent off in 4 directions to master the elements. That the people who went north were going to master fire. The people who went south were going to master earth, Native Americans. The people who were going to go west, the Africans, were going to master water. The people who went east, the East Asians, were going to master air or ether. And this is exactly what we've seen. This is exactly true. It is European culture that mastered technology. What you're watching now, this through my computer, through the internet, on your device, is powered by fire. The car you drive is powered by fire. The electric light is powered by fire. The nuclear bombs that are dropped on people are powered by fire. The planes that fly, these were all invented by, or at least perfected, in the West, which is fire, the fire people, Northern Europeans. The people who have mastered water are the Africans. The vast majority of the music you listen to is African-inspired, if not completely African-based. And that is like water. It seeps into everything. It seeps into all of your culture. Your dancing, your clothes. Remember, when I was a kid, the last thing somebody wanted to do was to pull their hat down over their head and flip the bill up. And to wear socks with your sandals. And to wear big white socks and pull them up. And to wear baggy shorts. The people who did that were geeks. And now it is the absolute, that's what, people go and find the baggiest pants that they can and they pull their socks up and they listen to rap music. Doesn't matter what culture or what ethnicity they are, and they pull their hat to the side and they do that. It's because that's the power of water. Water gets into everything. So this is what the music of the kids these days, this is the power of African music. This is water. Let's see, have I talked about everybody? Native Americans are always seen as being shamans, which is what? The earth. Even though if you ask a Native American, they will get very upset if you call them a shaman. But it just means that they represent the earth. They represent earth spirituality. They went south, meaning they came up out of Africa like everybody else, went east and then down. Once you get into the Americas, after going over the land bridge, there's only one place to go, which is south. So they went south, mastered earth. The East Asians mastered ether. There is no there is no culture on the planet that has more power when it comes to life force energy exercises than the Chinese. They have mastered Qigong. There's nobody on the planet like them. They've mastered the ether element. Jupiter is ether, the planet of ether. So Jupiter is also the teacher. So that's why of all the teachers, like the Western teachers like me, the fire teachers, you work with the gods of the north, they're very fiery. And very fiery, as you can see. The East Asians, if you piss them off, they go silent, they turn around and show you their back. That's ether. That's the teacher. A true teacher doesn't scold his students, in a way that will harm them. So they're very much that way. They just simply don't. If you upset them, they just don't talk to you. That's ether. That's Jupiter. All right, let's see here. Yeah, I'm 2 seconds away from blocking that dude. All right, now I got people telling me what to do. Yeah, I don't know who he's talking to. Yeah, I don't know who he's talking to. Might not be talking to me. Anyway, I don't see any more questions. So I am going to end things. So let us do this. So let me do a little bit of business here before I... Do I have everybody here? Let's see. What's on this one here? Yeah. So let me do a little bit of business. Okay. So we've talked a little bit about astrology. If you want to find out, because it's going to be important to know this, if you want to find out how these retrograde planets are affecting you in your chart, then you need to get a chart done. I recommend getting Vedic Astrology because it's what Westerners would call sidereal astrology, which is the stars that are directly above your head, which are the ones that are affecting you. My experience with the tropical zodiac is that it is off by 24 degrees compared to what's above your head, and I don't find it to be accurate, so I don't do it. I'm sure there are benefits to it on a soul level, but on a physical level, I don't find it very practically applicable. If you want to find out how this is affecting you, go to astrology.thunderwizard.com and you can get a reading from me. You have to pay my price and wait for me to have an opening. Or you can get a reading done from one of my apprentices. There will be more coming because I'm getting more and more people are finishing up their apprenticeship and passing the test. And so they'll be on the website. So you can save $100 and get one from them. For instance, let me give you, why this is helpful. Right now, Jupiter is retrograde over my Arruda, which is my projection. You can see it. You've been watching me a long time. You've probably never seen this much fury come out of me. And that is because Jupiter is retrograde over my Arruda, over my projection. Everything that I do here, this is all my Arruda, everything. My whole business is based on my Arruda, my projection. So now you're seeing the teacher of balance, and now Jupiter has gone retrograde, which means that he's going to be ruthless. So you're seeing that in the way that I'm handling people. So it doesn't bother me. As long as I own that, and I acknowledge it, and I allow myself to be in it, then there's a better chance that Jupiter is actually going to be helpful. If I try and deny that, if I let myself to feel guilty or shameful, or if I'm worried that people are going to not, unsubscribe because I'm going against their politics, then what's going to happen is it's going to come out in negative ways, in ways that aren't helpful. But at least now, when you see my fury, I'm saying it to your face. And I'm not being passive-aggressive about it. I'm straight in your face about it. If I think that your ignorance is causing harm, because that's what I think. The guy that I got really mad at, his ignorance and his justification of his ignorance is extremely harmful, because it promotes that there's a lot of people who on their emotional agenda want to buy into that. So it's incredibly harmful. So it makes me really want to go after that. Especially I can't get that vision out of my head about the little kids coughing and spewing up blood. I mean, there's no excuse for that. And there's no excuse for anybody that in any way empowers that. And I have no sympathy or empathy for you and very little patience. So yeah, that's because now, if that question were to come up, 6 or 9 months ago, I might have responded differently. But Jupiter is over my Arruda, and I acknowledge it. And that's what Jupiter wants to say. Jupiter is now shooting out the lightning bolts at the demons. So if you want to find out where Saturn is in your chart, for instance. So Saturn right now is over my 5th house. My 5th house what is the 5th house? The 5th house has to do with education. And what have I been talking about? You got to get a fucking education. That's Saturn retrograde. Saturn saying, knock it off. The reason why you don't have a fucking clue is because you haven't put any effort into educating yourself. So get off your ass and actually go and find out the truth. You've been watching Fox News this whole time? Go and watch MSNBC for a few hours. Even if you can't stand the people, go listen to Rachel Maddow. Watch Rachel Maddow for, and find out all of the stuff you haven't been told. And then make a decision. Because now you have technically both sides. Even though Rachel Maddow actually has to back up her journalism. She's not an opinion journalist, even though she definitely has a political bent. There's no two ways about that. So that's what Saturn, that's why so you see, it makes perfect sense. Find out where it is in your chart. The way to do that is go to astrology.thunderwizard.com and you can figure out how to own that within yourself, because by owning it and looking at it, then you can avoid the problems that'll come from it. You'll know how not to resist it. Okay? You'll know how to be fearless through it. Okay, so that's it for me. I believe I'll check last minute any questions. Nope, don't see any questions. Deborah Torres Reyes, you're asking a question, but put question next time so I can see it. I almost missed it. How much for a reading along with the Arruda? You have to find that out. You go to astrology.thunderwizard.com. Okay, and that'll answer all of your questions about which kind of reading to get and how much they are and all that kind of good stuff. Okay, all right, no more questions. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go to. Hang on one second. No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna go dunk my head in the ocean, watch the steam rise. I gotta cool myself off. Okay. All right, so that's it for me, my friends. I think I've done everything I'm going to do. All right, I will catch you guys on the flip-flop.